Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Apologies for starting a little late. We are waiting one more task force member, but we will do some logistics and give her time to come in. Let me just let my staff know downstairs that one more is coming. Okay, this is the May 7th meeting of the Sisson Street Task Force. I want to appreciate everybody's time coming in on a Saturday. Also want to thank the mayor's office for and the council president's office for working with me on getting these logistics together for today. I wanted to have an in-person discussion as we go forward. I'm going to go over the agenda. Well, first I want to just do a roll call of members. Kristen Sinclair from Hamden is here. John Ellsbury from Stonehill is here. Marianne Henderson from Midtown Community Benefits District is here. Samantha Horn, Vice Chair from Greater Remington, is here. Councilman Jones stepped out, but he is in the building and is coming back. Kevin McCartney is going to try to call in. Keandra Pryor is on her way. She may log in until she gets here. I'm here too. My name is Odette Ramos. I'm councilwoman from the 14th district and chair of the committee. Deputy Director Robinson from DPW is here. Councilman Jones just walked back in, so he's here. Sandy Sparks from Friends of the Jones Falls is here. Councilman Torrance, I believe, is online. I see him there, and we'll make sure to make sure that we can get his questions in as well. And then Jed Weeks from Bikemore. So we have a quorum to get started. We're waiting for 2 more members, and we will start them as soon as we possibly can. We are in City Hall in the Reeves room, and also online on WebEx. We are not taking public testimony today. What we're going to do first is we're going to discuss, we got a lot of public comment, and the task force has been working through the public comment. So we will make sure that we're going to work on the tally, make sure we at least one member has read some of the emails, so that we're and talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the emails and the public comment from the 23rd. And I'm sure there's a discussion in other forums, but I'm just going to be focused on our formal feedback that we got on this process. And then we will have a working session going through our document and discussion. So I think that how I want to handle the talking about each of the emails is just to first take a step back and review our process that we started with in August, just to provide a little bit of context for the discussion today and the emails. We, as you recall, the task force got started after lots of consternation about a choice of possibly moving Sisson to Falls Road near the Jones Falls. This is how democracy works. Public officials listened, and the mayor created this task force. The task force has been working for 6 months on getting information, and we published a paper of our findings. I think we went into a lot of detail, and I very much appreciate DPW being open about getting us the data, but also that task force members asked some great questions and got DPW to do some measuring that we hadn't done before in terms of who are the users and that kind of thing. At our last meeting, we went through the whole paper, so I'm not planning on doing that again. but we do have a lot of information before us, which is how we came up with the three options. So to go over those options, option one is, well, anyway, then we sent out the paper for people to take a look at, and we've got a lot of great feedback. So just to review the options real quick, and then we'll start to discuss the feedback that we got. Option one is to leave the facility open with modifications. And the modifications include moving the hazardous household waste to either to Bowley's Lane, although there's been some discussion about going back to the way it used to be, which was to have it at Poly every so often. To also fast track our zero waste goals so that we're not taking as much to Sisson and to all of our other sites, and to make sure that we're enhancing the facilities for our workers, as well as making sure that there's a targeted campaign so that the 50% of the users of Sisson who are not in the immediate area can take advantage of the opportunities for using Read. No, I got it. Okay. It just had a little bit of a hiccup. Can you all hear me online? And I had Ethan leave. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The microphones just had a little bit of a hiccup. So if they hiccup again and we have to yell, we will just have to yell. So the second proposal is to pause any closure of Sisson, but look at what the metrics are and wait until Reed Bird is open and Bowley's is going to stay open during construction before closure of Sisson. And so that would mean a significant time frame, but also looking at options for reducing dependence on Sisson, which would be collecting specific data to let us know that there's reduced dependence on Sisson, including better bulk trash, better, more dumpster days, moving hazardous household waste as well, but some specific metrics there. And again, this would be contingent on the opening of Reed Bird after it is fully renovated, and that the Bowley's Lane site is in process of being renovated. It is anticipated that Bowley's will stay open during construction. And then also fast track our zero waste goals, again, reducing dependence not just on Sisson, but all of the other sites as well. And a very specific public relations campaign so that it's very clear what all of the options are for residents who need the sites. And then proposal number 3 is to relocate Sisson to another site. We had a lot of discussion about this. We looked at several sites across the city and basically canceled out all of them by consensus, with one specific vote about making sure that Falls Road was no longer in consideration. The criteria for another site was that it can't be in a Black neighborhood. It has to be centrally located. It can't be in a floodplain or watershed, and that has to meet the needs of the Department of Public Works. And so what we know is that we looked at several sites and just could not find any alternative that made sense or financially made sense. And then we have some additional things that the task force would like to make recommendations on, which is really to reform the dumpster days program back to where it was, because that seemed to be working. Really have a discussion around the household hazardous waste and the use of the site by the benefits districts, and we can go over those also in our discussions. So we asked the public to take a look at our paper and read through everything, including who's using the site and okay, Keandra's on her way up. And the plans. So we went over that in our public meeting before. So I wanted to just make sure that everybody knew what we were talking about relative to those three options, and then have a discussion around. I will say that we got over 300 emails, well, closer to 400 emails. And some did come directly to me, which then I sent over to the Sisson email so that we could collect everything in one place. I believe Dana did the same. And so what we have done, just for the public to understand how we did this, we divided up the 600 pages. Good morning. Make sure that Keandra, don't touch that one. No touching. So Sandy, can you move your jacket there and then have Keandra sit there? And then we do have an extra microphone, or you can sit here next to me, either way. Okay. Sorry for this. Oh no, you're totally fine. I'm just so happy to see you. Okay, great. What we just did was go over the three options just to provide context. So just for the public, what we did was we got a document of 660 pages of emails, and the task force divided it up since we had limited time to go over them. Obviously, task force could have read all of them, and I did almost finish it before this meeting. And so what I'd like to do today is we have a little chart that we started to really look at the a basic tally of what folks were saying, but also any additional notes, because we also know that our residents are very creative and have some additional thoughts about how this could work. And just wanted also to remind the task force and the public that this ended up being not just about one site, but really about our sanitation infrastructure writ large, which was super fascinating from a running cities perspective. So we're going to start that process to look at, and I'm going to pull it up for us to take a look at and make sure that we're doing this in a transparent manner so that folks can see. And I won't be able to see the screen, but I will take care of it. I'm going to go. Yeah. I mean, you could log on to the thing, but in the spirit of transparency, I want to be able to, if we're going to work on a spreadsheet, I want to make sure that the public can see it too. Yeah. Yep. Transparency has been the name of the game here. So, and I can go over this, and if we have any gaps, we can quickly read any remaining emails. And I have to say that this was, I think, a fascinating exercise. I think that folks would agree that this was interesting to see the variety of things that people are saying, but also that there's a lot of passion behind this particular site. I think, DPW and Mr. Bennett and the crew should be very proud of the fact that they run such a tight ship and do such a great job that folks are so in love with this place, because they really feel at home and served, and it's great. So that's a victory for public service. Okay, so we're going to go through each one and or each person's, and I don't know if Kevin had a chance to go over his, so we may have to do that. Sandy, did you get a chance to go over yours? No? Okay.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, I'm getting requests to see if you could make the what's posted just a little bit smaller so it covers a full screen. I don't know if that's possible.
You mean make
But
it
just wanted
bigger to have a full screen? Hold on.
The request is, hold on, let me just, it's just to the request is to make it a little bit smaller so it shows up fully on screen, but it might need to be bigger. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I just
If
expanded
possible.
it so that
Okay.
people can see. I think that's what the request is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it's not
Ethan.
showing up fully on the screen for those online.
Okay. Well, it's not showing up. So on my screen, okay, I have to move it over. Okay.
yes. Yeah. There you go.
All
There
right.
you go.
I will do that
Perfect.
once we get to the notes section, but we are not
Okay.
there yet. Yep.
All
Thank you.
righty. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, because if we made it any smaller, nobody will be able to see. You'd have to have a magnifying glass and your reading glasses as well. So, okay, folks, do we want to take a second to just quickly read through the pages that Kevin was going to do and Sandy so that we have a full picture? Can we take a few moments to do that? Director Garbark just walked in. Thank you, Director.
I actually logged both of those chunks as well. So if we want to talk about something else for a minute, I can copy and paste my log into those sections.
Okay, you read through them and
Yes.
then okay. All right. No, I was starting to do the same and then I, because we delegated, so I'm working on delegating. Yeah, right. I will say that I did add a point here about the public comment during the 223 hearing, and I think we got I didn't get a chance to read through or to look at the hearing again, but I believe most of we can tally it later, but most of the comment was for option 2 at the public hearing.
Yep. I talked about it.
You did? Okay. Great. Okay. So we'll take a second to do that as well.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt again. I have a real quick question. Is it possible to post? Oh, no, never mind. I was going to say, is it possible to post this to the web page now? I already know that's not possible because we don't have the staff for that. But afterwards, after the
It'll
meeting.
be posted afterwards once we're done and we have our notes and everything in the spirit of transparency.
Awesome.
But yeah, I wanted
Awesome.
to do this exercise. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're just going to post everything. I have
Okay,
to
thank
ask
you.
we have to ask I have to ask the law department around the 600-page document because it's got people's private emails on it. So we may have to redact those just to, not have all of everybody's emails out there. But other than that, everything will be posted right away. If we have to redact the emails first, we'll take a look at that. The law department, I've got to thank them publicly also. They helped us with gathering the emails into one document, which was not a easy feat. So I'm really grateful. This is a huge team effort here. And so while we're working on that, any general observations about what you read, the process as we're waiting to sort of log everything in? Anything that you all
Just emails that they didn't have to vote particularly, but they kind of wanted to. One was from the Green Chair, and I guess it's Reservoir Hill Association that wanted specific.
Oh, we'll use your microphone. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, everybody needs to use your microphone when you're speaking. I'm sorry about that.
No, I have an email from Green Chair in Reservoir Hill that wanted specific details about environmental justice and how it all played in the decision-making process. And that's on page 557.
Okay.
There was no vote connected to it, but it was.
It's a good question. And I think we, I don't know that we gave enough attention to that issue in our deliberations.
Yeah, I think
Use the microphone.
sure. That was definitely a big message that I heard from Darnell, who's our green chair, and he was concerned about the possible disparate impacts to the other, if we were to reroute all of the work to other locations, that we are just making sure that that's not causing a disparate impact in and of itself. And he also, he was concerned also about us clearly defining what we meant by Black neighborhoods, so that we're all on the same page, because I think I was like, oh yeah, I kind of assumed I understood what that meant. And he recommended that we really look deeply into that, find a definition and stick to it. That way it's very clear for all of us. And then he also recommended looking at the definition of, I forget, a very specific term. But when I looked into the term, all of Baltimore would qualify.
Was that watershed?
No, it wasn't it was a term about like basically being over inundated with environmental issues. Like, I'm not using the right word at all, but it covered basically the entire city. So it wasn't specific enough, but it does have a rate to it. Like I think you can score from like a 0 to 100 or something. So there are some neighborhoods that are more carrying more of the weight of environmental injustice. And so I guess his recommendation was just to use a metric that was super clear to decide whether or not what we were doing and what we would do could possibly create more harm, even if the neighborhood isn't necessarily a Black neighborhood in the way that we imagine it to be, that it is still dealing with the repercussions of environmental injustice.
Mm-hmm. I very much appreciate that. I think that Councilman Torrance started to bring that up in our public hearing, particularly around not just like truck routes and stuff, but the fact that Reedbird and Bowleys are located in Black neighborhoods. Okay.
Yep.
And so that is really something that we need to address. I did have a conversation with Councilwoman Porter regarding Reedbird. She is aware and has been working with the Department of Public Works on the plans for Reedbird and making sure, a lot of the aesthetic suggestions that we had, she had already discussed with them and they had already put in place. I do think that the additional sort of traffic and stuff through Reedbird, and those of us who went to Reedbird know that there's, houses across the street, I think will have an impact. And we need to address that at some point. And maybe by putting, it was very clear that hazardous waste does not go to Reedbird. For lots of reasons, right? One is the traffic, but two is just how sensitive the environment is there. And that was very, very clear. So the councilwoman has been very involved with these conversations. She's been working with DPW on this. She's not asking for removal of Reedbird, but that it gets done correctly, right? I do think that we have to be strategic about where we put the hazardous waste. And Reedbird is not the place for it. So, and then Bowleys Lane, obviously is a humongous site. It's right next to a highway. I was surprised to see that it wasn't in a floodplain, even though the Herring Run is close by. But I think just the way the topography works, there's also, it's kind of set back. So, and houses, you can't see houses from it and people can't see it from their homes. So it seemed like that I did reach out to the councilwoman who represents that area, and I have not had a conversation with her about this yet. But the plans for the composting facility are moving forward. They've been approved through zoning. There's dollars in the capital budget. It is something that we need to be very mindful of and really address head on. that we're basically removing a site from a white neighborhood and relying on 2 Black neighborhoods for our sanitation infrastructure. And that, you know, Reedbird has been and Bowley's have been there for a long time. They're both sites that we also use. So Reedbird has all of our sanitation trucks as well as their headquarters for for the west side of the city, and Bowley's has all of that for the east side of the city. Just because they've been there forever doesn't mean that we shouldn't make sure that we're doing this right. I'm aware of that, and I really appreciate that your green chair also brought it to us.
And I don't know if you're finished with your batch, like talking about things that came up, but I did notice during the testimony and in my batch of emails, something that kept coming up was Remington's right to have land that wasn't a transfer site. And I just think we should be very cautious about that as well, because of these 2 stations existing. Will they have the right to shut them down? Like if they had their own neighborhood plan and they decided they didn't want it, would the city allow them to shut it down? So just like being really mindful and thoughtful that I think it's really important to know what the community wants for sure and what their neighborhood plan desires, but just also thinking about in the interest of the public good of the entire city, how much power each neighborhood has in determining that. And would the city then in the future hear out these other communities if they decided they wanted the same? And if the answer is no, that we should just be thoughtful and how much that determines how we make our decisions around this.
Yeah,
That's important. And that's an important top perspective to have, because even when reading through some of my batches, I wasn't surprised to see that a lot of people are going to say leave it open, right? Because we leave it open for the entire city, right, to have a say. And most people appreciate the convenience, but don't have to deal with the inconvenience. So when you leave it open publicly, the vast majority of folks are probably going to say, oh, you know what, I'd like it, leave it open, because there is no consequence for everyone else on the other end. And the other thing when I realize is it's so nuanced, where even the folks who said leave it open said also, I want to see it fully funded. And also these certain things that aren't really possible, so to say, when talking to the agency, they're like, look, we just don't have as much money to get the vision that you would like to see.
Hold on 1 second. You're good? Yeah. Okay. No, you need to you need to
Mute your speaker.
you need to turn all your speaker all the way down.
Testing. 1 2 1 2. There we go. I think
Yeah,
we got
there
it.
you
Where some folks request is also, I would like to see it fully funded as well. But when talking to DBW, it's like we just don't have the money to kind of put that vision out as well. And it's like so nuanced, and they see it now for what it is also and what it's providing, but not what the future vision is also going to be when you have Rebird on site and Bowley's on site, and they're all just as convenient as Sisson. A lot of them people are holding on to what I currently see it as, was currently function as, and I want to keep it and I want to fund it, and don't, and that's unfortunately not what got us here today. It's the fact that there are things we have to address, and things just can't necessarily stay the same. But not to my surprise, a lot of people are like, just leave it open and leave it how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, not to hog the mic, but agreed. I totally agreed with that. And someone went as far as to say, I want to trust you in number 2. I want to trust you, but because I don't trust the system to work, I cannot believe that you're actually going to do this. And therefore, I want to wait until these 2 entities are fully functional, and then we can come back and decide to close it. But until I see it and I can feel it, I don't trust number 2. And I thought that was really interesting, because it's less than the in their brain, they understand, okay, if we can meet these metrics, I should feel good about it. But that place of if was it was overwhelming. Like so they went with 1, not because logically
Too many, exactly.
was wrong. It was just that it's too unsure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. I do want to add that I think in conversations with DPW, obviously there's a lot of things happening. We're going to end up, we can't expand our landfill anymore. We want to close the incinerator, and like that is a high priority. All of this, even this conversation around, if Cherry Hill wanted to redevelop and move Reedbird, they should be able to do that. There's so many steps that need to happen in order to make even Sisson and Reedbird, it would have to be all of our zero waste goals completed, right? And we've had lots of conversations about that. So the construction and demolition site needs to be done. We've got to have a bottle deposit, something done for bottles. We've got to reduce the dependence on these things. And so I think that's probably a big theme here, so that, and we can, I think, put in the paper that if that's, we all agree that, if this is something that a neighborhood wanted and we're working through it, that each neighborhood that has to deal with this should also get the same opportunity.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Council Chair, if I may, I just
You
want
need
to
to
add,
use the microphone. Oh, yeah. Okay. You're using it. Yeah.
if
Sorry.
I may, just add a couple of points of context to this. So, when we're talking about both Bowleys and Reedbird, we have to keep in mind that both of these are closed landfills. So, the amount of development that would be
They're
allowed
already
there,
on closed landfills.
amount of development that would be there would be very, very limited, right? Two, the work that we're going to be doing to the facilities that are there are going to be better for the environment and going to be better for the community, as well as our staff that are going to be using these. So to that point, I just wanted to make sure I put that on record for the discussion, because we are being very conscious of those concerns from the community. As the chair has pointed out, we've had conversations with other council members, specifically ones representing those areas, and getting their feedback on what they would like to see in support of their constituents in the footprint. So just wanted to put that on the table.
And that becomes the challenge with Sisson. It's like with those improvements and for the worker in an environment that's happening at Rebird and Bowley's, it's like, does it make sense to make those improvements at Sisson? And the answer becomes, well, it's kind of the money's not there, and also the space to do it isn't there. So it then becomes like not even functional for our future vision of the city that we even have for transfer stations. So that's why I say it becomes difficult when people say, keep it the way it is, how it is, and it's kind of preventing the future and vision on like what a transfer station should look like, mitigating some of the impacts of the community. Because even when we toured the site and talking to workers, it's like we're trying to do the best with what we have, but what we need is more. So, and that kind of becomes a challenge with even considering leaving it open.
I think that was something I got out of a lot of the testimony I did. Even though I didn't tally everything, I did read all 600 plus pages quickly. And I do think I saw plenty of really informed comments about option one, but there was also a lot of testimony that just said, keep it open, it's fine. And I did find that a little frustrating because it's pretty clear it's not fine from the testimony from DPW and, from the experience of the neighborhood. And I don't really know how to take those comments into consideration if they don't recognize the actual challenges of the site and the fact that we cannot rectify those challenges on the site with more investment.
Yeah, I want to just use your microphone, please.
What Jed said is that in the one, I had like 20 folks in the 60 say they wanted to keep it open. And throughout that were caveats. Some were very specific caveats. And then I had a whole group of 6 that didn't know what they wanted to do, but they also had that same concern. They felt like, well, if we keep it, it should be improved. And the folks in that 20 also said, this comes with that caveat that, we have better facilities. It was almost like I said earlier before we started this, it was like they didn't know about the other conversations that we've had. They were basically just dismissed. So.
Yeah, I think to your point, Jed, like I saw the flip of things because I also saw in some of the ones that I had with the ones that want to keep it open, they were just saying keep it open
Right.
and develop it because it's better for the neighborhood. But I think that also, while true, also is taking away the fact of the benefits of the use that some people are saying on option one. So I saw a lot of stuff, similar stuff that Keandra was mentioning, and just the sense that I got was there's a lot of people and residents that do a really good job recycling and
Mhm.
utilizing Sisson really well.
Mhm.
Those habits are awesome,
Mhm.
especially if we want to have zero waste goals.
Mhm.
So I think there is a little bit of discussion I think we should have around how do we make sure we meet our zero waste goals and make sure we're also changing habits, but also not making new harder habits where people won't recycle. So I think there's some nuance there as well. And I think too, I did notice a lot of testimony that was also saying, hey, my alley is always trashed. I'm the one cleaning it. Like I go to use Sisson because it's convenient for me to make sure that my area of my neighborhood is as clean as can be. And that there's some sense of making sure that DPW has the resources, to your point earlier, to do regular pickups and regular things. Or if we're going to expand dumpster days and pickups, are citizens going to trust that happens if it hasn't happened in the past? So I do think
Mhm.
there's some trust stuff there.
Mhm.
I did see the ones that were just saying keep it open without thinking about it, which made me think too that we have an education problem on both
Mhm.
the Bowleys Lane and Rebird, and also education about what we do in the city in general.
Mhm.
Like a really good campaign to talk about zero waste goals, as well as what do all these sites utilize? How do they utilize? When do they utilize? In a way that's very easy to understand. I think there's a lot of residents that, for the most part, aren't necessarily seeing what we're doing because it's not always easily and clearly communicated. And that's not to say that we haven't done a really good job to push that information. It's just somehow things are getting missed and people don't understand. So there was like a sense of like, oh no, are we losing this right now? So I think trying to re-educate and let them really know and continue that, it's going to help.
I agree.
I'm
And
just, hold on one second. I'm just I've just got noticed that the big thing is here still and we're discussing and I want the public to actually see us talking.
okay.
So that's on my side. Sorry. We'll put it back once we start discussing that before, but I wanted to just keep going with this discussion. Go ahead.
Sure.
Keaton.
I totally agree with you. I think that one thing, as far as like moving in the direction of trust and like building trust with the public, would be very clearly outlining those things. So in a time-based fashion, because you're right. I think there's a lot of panic around this is going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to wake up and I won't have access. And I think it's almost, if we can, break down those zero waste goals and break down the other goals that DPW has in a way that's time-based, in like a timeline almost of like we're year 1, year 2, year 3. This is where by year 6, we have to be here to close, right? And if we're not here, we're going to have to adjust this timeline so that people can clearly digest it. Because right now there's just so many different things that we're talking about where when it comes to, okay, hazardous waste has to move. Oh, where is it going to go? Like, you have to make that decision. So at what point do we have to make that choice in order to make it to year 6 and weave it into the long-term plans that DPW has elsewhere? And then just understanding the difference between a dump and a transfer station, which we all learned. Like, this was new to a lot of us. This is not, so a lot of folks' anxiety around that and whether or not a building could be adjacent to a dump, right? And just kind of rewiring people and understanding what those things are. And I just also wanted to point out that Councilman Dorsey, I think, was actually outside of my thing, but I did see a letter from him and he pointed out 3 different cities to kind of look at. And I think that would be wise. I think he said that Philly has 5 different transfer stations, and it'd be cool to see, like, because in our heads, I'm just spitballing here. This is not something we've discussed or, decided. I just want to say that clearly for the record.
Yeah.
But if we are going to slowly wean ourselves off of Sisson, right? And what is like the minimum, like most minimal recycling station that can exist in a city? Like, if we get those 50% of folks that live outside of the Sisson catchment area and they are out, that's a lot less people that Sisson is serving, right?
Mhm.
So then maybe they require less, and maybe there is a way that we can create a space for them in that intermediary moment when Reed Bird and Bullies are being really well designed and are meeting the needs of the city in a different way, and people are using it in a different way, where you can still take your excess recycling, you can still take furniture, you can, but it's a lot more minimal. And I don't know what that looks like, honestly. I don't know functionally if that's even possible. But instead of thinking, oh, we're taking all this money to reinvest in Sisson, maybe it's a smaller amount to minimize it, to make it smaller and to actually reduce the impact it's having on Remington, and making it have a smaller footprint rather than a larger one. Just a question I had in my mind as I was reading through it, because I was like, actually, maybe it means that Sisson isn't the same and it's also not expanding. And then maybe if we're slowly weaned off of it, then we can imagine a world in which it's not there. And because it's taking up so much space, it's the most popular. And that's something I heard a lot, people scoffing that you're saying it's not working. How is it not working? It's the most popular place. It's where everyone goes. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And I think that once we can see it and it's like a material reality that, oh, it's just a place where you take these things. I can imagine going over here for everything else. And now why do I even go to Sisson? It's not, maybe that's a way that we can get people to imagine that future. And right now it's not possible. Just a thought.
A few things. I have Councilman Dorsey's letter up just so that folks that are listening in can hear. And he brings up New York City, DC, and Philly. New York City has, we know the size of New York City, but they have one special drop off in each borough, and it's only for hazardous waste and bulk items. It's not for general trash, recycling, or haulers. DC is 3/4 of the land area of Baltimore and a 16% greater population, and they have one transfer station. It is buffered by railroad tracks, industrial land, and forest. And it also only accepts bulk items, recycling, and electronics. Philly is 65% larger in land area and has a population of 2.7 times Baltimore. And they have 5 facilities accepting materials similar to Sisson Street, but they tend to be in industrial areas. I have not double checked this, but it is from a council person, so I'm going to believe it. Maybe. Kidding. Given the source, I'm going to believe it. But I think something that really struck me in reading all of these and going back and rereading our report and reading the commentary on the report itself that we received. To me, I feel that many of these recommendations that we're making to DPW are actually outside of our 3 options.
Yep.
And I hate to throw this out there, but I feel that our 3 choices need to be pared down and these DPW recommendations need to be made separate. Not as metrics, not necessarily as metrics that need to be met in order for these choices to be made, but that these are recommendations and things that need to be improved upon regardless. Especially because I read a lot of folks that are, in my opinion, opting out of curbside pickup because they choose to bring their trash and recycling weekly to Sisson Street. Like they're just opting out. They're just bringing their trash in their car to Sisson Street. It's very common.
Use your microphone.
And it's the frustration I hear.
Hey, before, I'm sorry to interrupt, it's Dana. Before people speak, if they could just identify themselves,
Sure.
that would be really, really helpful for everybody online.
Hi,
Mhm.
I'm Samantha
Thank you.
Horn with Greater Remington Improvement Association.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman.
Councilman Jermaine
I mean, I'm just letting the discussion go because I mean, normally I would say you have to be recognized by me, but right now we're as long as we're not cutting each other off, I'm okay doing it this way, but we will need to identify yourself. Go ahead.
And throughout
Yeah,
this,
that's all we're asking. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
and when it comes to I've noticed throughout this process, when it comes to the relationship between citizens and the recycle and Sisson, some people are just taking their recycle straight to Sisson because it's so convenient, right? And opting out of the curbside because there is a disconnect with curbside pickup. I feel like sometimes with the city's recycle where people are like, when they're getting picked up, what can I put it in? How can I? And it's just more convenient. Can I put it in the bag? I can't put it in the bag. Do my neighbors, when I talk to my neighbors about it, what can get done? What can't get done? So people feel comfortable. Like, okay, I know what I can put in my car. I know where I can take it at. It's no questions on whether it's coming, whether it's not coming. I feel like if we spend time, like trying to also educate the public and knowing like how the recycle works a little better, because it's still new to residents. You got people who lived in Baltimore for years all their life and never put their recycling out ever since we started.
That's right.
Then like we wouldn't need facilities like Sisson as much either. And I think it becomes such a demand because people aren't used to that curbside relationship pickup.
I'm going to let the director say something real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah. Khalil Zaid, Deputy Mayor for Operations, City of Baltimore. I just want to put something on the table to think about as you look at the options. Are the York Road facility that we have.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to add some roll-offs and having roll-offs for drop-off.
That's what the comptroller Henry had suggested.
Yeah.
early on.
So we're happy with that. Is if that's an option on the table to help people out, it's already going to be open. And the only caveat here, I would say, that and most likely people are not going to be doing something when we have severe winter storm because
Yeah, because that's a station for our plows and stuff.
for the plows and it's for the salt. So during those period of time that we have, severe, we have our pickup trucks picking up the salt, that we're not going to have it open, but otherwise we'll be happy to have it open. And
Is that our site, DPW site or DGS site?
they're there right now. They're DGS and DOT. So DGS does the fueling and does the mechanic shop, and DOT does the salt operation. But it's a city facility. So
Yeah, that was the one of the comptroller was thinking about that as well, just because if we have Bowleys and Reedbird, then there would need, in his mind, it was important to have some sort of facility up in the northern part of the city. But it sounds like the short term on that would just be the roll-offs like we saw at Bowleys, where people have to just walk in their materials. But we would need to have some recycling there too, not just trash.
you could have both. Like you could have probably roll off for recycling or roll off for trash.
Right. Okay. Oh, Kevin just came in. Great. Okay. Great. We have our whole group here. Yeah, somebody needs to mute. Kevin, you need to mute unless you're going to talk. There we go. Okay.
I agree with the discussion right now that we could think about that particular location as a alternative for a couple of things, to include, I think, possibly the benefits districts, just as a comment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. One comment, a couple comments I'd like to make.
Sure.
To
And then Sandy
Sam's
next.
point about coming up with recommendations that are really DPW related. So if we did something like we started winding down, and that was what I was trying to explain to a lot of people, wind down specific things like the hazardous waste, start pulling specific things out,
Mhm.
Educating the public that this is where you take that. Now we go to, Poly June, July, and August, which we were doing 5 or 10 years ago. It was a great thing. Lots of turnout. It worked
Big
beautifully.
parking lot, easy to
Right,
queue.
I
Yeah.
think, the whole winding down, pulling one thing out after another. Okay, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I want to mention too is coming from Mount Vernon, by the way, Marianne Henderson, Midtown, is that we have many multifamily dwellings that do not provide recycling. And so and there are a lot of Peabody students, Hopkins students, and many of them recycle, and they take it to Sisson Street because the multifamily owners only offer the blue trucks, which is Republic, and they don't pick up recycling. And so that is a serious issue where you've got multifamily buildings. They don't do recycling. I don't really understand why, because their tenants want it. So that's something that we need.
We could probably
Jermaine-
pass a law.
Yeah, Jermaine, I mean, to say that, when we're looking at these multifamily buildings, it's not just trash, it's recycling now. Or what they do is they fill other people's recycling containers, which drives everybody else crazy.
insane.
Insane.
Right.
So all these are ideas, that are coming out that, probably belong in column B, but, you have to start working on all those things as well to wind down that intense usage. Because when like Jeremy, like you're saying, I know people who tell me they take their trash and their recycling to Sisson. I'm amazed at it. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And they do it all the
Yeah.
time. They say, I go there 3 times a week. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Anyway,
I
I just wanted y'all to know that.
yeah, I appreciate that. Sandy and then Sam and then Kristen's been wanting to, I can see you're trying to talk. It's how I can do the speakers list. Sandy, go ahead.
Yeah, Sandy Sparks, Friends of the Jones Falls. I strongly agree that we need to make this this space up on York Road workable right away, as soon as possible, as a relief and a convenience for the whole of the North area. And I think Marianne makes a strong point that a lot of the people coming to Sisson now are perhaps renters.
Yes.
We have all the neighborhoods that have multifamily apartments are not tuned in to recycling. I live amongst them. I can assure you it's a bad situation. And the city does come through with the recycling in our case, every Thursday. And a lot of it is just badly managed, if at all, from the residents' point of view. So I think education should be high on the list of what moves forward, and working with all the various programs that could be available to give relief would be important. And I strongly advocate for the Poly Western as a hazardous waste site. It worked beautifully. It's very accessible. Everyone knows where it is. It's not hidden away. And it's just a very convenient spot. It would be, frankly, a lot more convenient than Sisson.
I have a question about that. The director and the deputy mayor, what was the reason why we stopped? Come on up to a microphone. Councilman, can you share your microphone? Oh, here we go.
Is this the outreach program?
No,
you're talking about?
we're talking about, so at one point in time, hazardous waste was collected at Poly Western. And we want to know why it was discontinued and moved to Sisson.
I would have to get back to you. I don't know. That predates me and probably Deputy Robinson. The only thing I can think of is we have to pay for hazardous waste disposal. And I would imagine, and also that's not necessarily owned by the city, that location. That could be the school property, and the
Yeah, the schools could have said no.
Yeah, the school
It's school.
may have said they didn't want that
Yeah.
there, that it might have been a security issue or something like that. But I do know that the costs have increased quite substantially. So it probably made more sense to have limited locations and do it more limited compared to what used to happen. That's my speculation, but I can find
My understanding from Mr. Bennett, who I know is listening, was that even when we do hazardous waste at Sisson, that there is that it's picked up pretty much. I mean, right now there's a lot of the things that we can see in that space right now are the propane tanks, empty propane tanks, which we don't take anymore, by the way. But that it's taken immediately, or at least on the Monday after Sisson. Is that, I mean, after hazardous waste weekend, right? It's taken.
Yes,
right
we don't
away.
want them there that long at all. Yeah, they have to come immediately and take them. Yeah, 24 hours or less. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that was the issue in terms of storage. There. Hold on one second.
Say, I'm familiar with, we did have it there. I don't know why it pivoted from there. I went to Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. But what I will say is this, when they did have it there, the actual vendor was on site at the time managing it.
Yes.
Additional costs associated with having them there to facilitate, because they could not leave it there at all.
Yeah.
By the end of that
Oh,
day,
yeah, because the
they
kids were,
hauled it.
yeah.
Yes, by
Yeah.
the end of that day, they hauled it off. I had practice on those Saturdays.
The contract currently is just hauling it off. We hold it at the site and then they take it.
And
Well,
now you kind of got my memories back when I worked for the school.
I figured.
Well, at my age, that happens all the times. But is when I was at the school system, when I was at the school system, and I was at the school system for a couple of years, I remember having the community come in and complain about that on regular basis, and the parents and everybody else coming in and complaining, having that at the commission meeting, the school commissioner meetings on Tuesday evenings. Few times coming in and complaining and having something like that around the school, around the high school. So, yeah, I mean, you could imagine. I mean, from the school system has to make a call with that one, and it's an easy call. It doesn't affect him anyway. And coming back to the city and telling the city
Right.
at some point, hey, we
Right.
don't need it there. And
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah, we
and-
do have lots of other big parking lots that, probably could be used. I'm gonna
got-
hear from
I
John
got a
real quick and
comment,
then Sandy. And
John
then Kristen.
Ellsbury
Sorry.
from Stonehill. Ash Smith had said, has anybody considered the vast empty parking lot at Pimlico? I drive it almost daily and it's always empty.
It won't be forever. With
Yeah.
the renovation of Pimlico, that's gonna be full. Once Pimlico, because remember, the renovation to Pimlico isn't just for racing anymore. It's gonna be a recreation facility. It'll be lots of other things, but I hear that. Sandy and Kristen.
Yeah, I'd like to add my familiarity with the Poly Western site and the efficiency of it, and the fact that the city was not having to, unlike at Sisson, house the hazardous waste until it could be hauled away. So it was a totally completed process. And yes, it cost more money, but it was money well spent. And so I think, and those were not every, I think there might have been once a month. It was not really, it was once a month, right?
During the summer months.
Yeah, so it was limited. I mean, give me a break. We need a really efficient method, convenient to everyone. It's off of 83, so it serves a huge population. So I think that if we could work on that immediately to deal with the hazardous waste, that would help the whole situation.
Yeah, I think that's been the consensus hazardous waste needs to be the first thing removed. But it's just a matter of where. And initially we thought we could do Foley's, which I think is still the case. But it sounds like there's some wanting to do something a little bit more convenient. Go ahead, Kristen. Sorry.
No, it's okay. This is Kristen Sinclair with the Hamden Community Council. So I think like a lot of what I'm hearing all of us discuss too, and kind of what Sam's point was, is I do think it's important to take certain things that are DPW related that are like, okay, are we consistent with pickup days, dumpster days, certain things that we know we need to figure out how to do regardless of our decision here to do. But I also think that some of those do impact as metrics.
That's right.
So I think we want to also pay attention to that as well. It's not just whittle the options down, it's whittle the options down in terms of what they are, but the metrics end up being the things that we need done before we even decide what the time frame might be. And I think the biggest thing is education. I think taking from this is like with the hazardous waste part, I did see a lot of people talking about hazardous waste. They like that they can drop it off there, but they also understand that it's not the best idea to like hold hazardous waste for any certain amount of time. So I think it's almost like the action item ends up being, all right, where will we need to remove hazardous waste from this location? Where will it go? How will it be hosted? And what is the process? That's like the number one thing that we have to figure out. I think that the idea that Keandra has of whittling things down at Sisson and just Sisson becomes a different type of situation that it is now, I think is highly important to think about because whatever we end up doing, it's not going to be immediate. And that has to happen because of the way that user behavior is.
That's right.
So I just want that on record that it's going to take time to change people's habits. And I just saw the other day a hauler come from Sisson, turn around, and they went to our favorite little location on Falls Road
to dump
behind
it. Yeah.
where they dump it, and the pile's getting higher.
It's-
But I did see somebody back there, I think, cleaning it up. So
Yeah, this has been a
that was
point
happening.
of
But
confirmation.
it happens. And I do think in the letter here that we have that we'll get to, it is important as a part of this process to make sure we have a moment in time where we can watch what happens. That's why I think when I was suggesting some adjustments, also based on some of the testimony, having some sort of beta test to be able to dry run for 6 months, let's say, during a busy time to see what happens and how people behave is highly important. Because if that completely fails, we need to kind of reevaluate exactly what's happening. And maybe that's something that happens once the certain things are kicking back up online to do that, if that's the option that is chosen. So I just want that to be like, I want to make sure we're not removing metrics, and I don't think that was the intention. I just want it to be very clear on these are separate, but they also impact the decision.
No, I think that's right. I think it was good that we put something out there for people to look at and all of us to get response to and know how we need to not just reorganize the paper, but reorganize our thinking, right? Around the fact that people are actually using Sisson because some of the public services that we're depending on are not working.
Right.
And so if those essential services are actually working, we're going to reduce the dependence, not just on Sisson, but the other sites, right? And as well as, mark our zero waste goals. So there should be a set of recommendations that we kind of started at the end. It was kind of put at the end, but that's a clear recommendations of making sure that the public services that we depend on have to work. Huge public education, absolutely deal with our, make sure that we're full speed ahead on our zero waste goals, which the Sustainability Commission, and we just had a hearing about our zero waste goals too. And this hazardous waste question, right? Like those things have to be addressed. And then we can think about, because it's clear, and on the testimony that I read too, that there's so much dependent on Sisson because these other things aren't working.
Yeah.
And so maybe we do invest a little bit into the York Road situation so that there's, recycling, at least recycling there, at least, not necessarily trash, but at least recycling there at the York Road site as we're working on our zero waste goals and transitioning in that regard. And then, we can see that eventually the closure of Sisson could occur. It's just that all of these other things have to happen. Is that what
That's right.
hearing? Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to highlight like how difficult sometimes that is because
It's so
like-
difficult.
like,
I don't
there's-
want to be the spokesperson. here
no,
for-
no. Because the fact of the matter is getting people to change their habits and move in a different direction when it comes to our waste is not convenient, right? And we're talking about leaving open a convenience center. Like this the
It's
whole
called a
the whole-
convenience
yeah,
center.
like a transfer station is a matter of convenience.
Yeah.
So like if you're talking about our objective is to inconvenience, go to get to zero waste, but which is just inconveniencing people because it's inconveniencing to go to zero waste, but it's in the long run it's worth it. But then at the same time, we're like, we need to make it as convenient as possible by keeping Sisson Street. Those are two contradictory statements. It's like, if we're going to lead to zero waste, then we need to have that plan leading to zero waste in the best way possible for people, encouraging them to have those good habits, and which isn't always convenient, which is why it becomes keeping it.
I think also that, again, part of our zero waste goals is actually to make it convenient.
Yes,
so like,
as possible. You're right.
the demo and construction site is going to be, it's close to, I forget where we're going to put it, but I know that we have a site. And like, if we can actually pull off this bottle thing where people are getting paid.
But it's never going to be as convenient as put it all in one bag and put it in your fridge.
Well,
People are used to.
if people are getting paid for the bottles, they actually have to take it somewhere. Okay. So, the city just put out a request for inquiries or whatever it's called to be able to get some feedback as to, because the state bill may not pass. And so we can't do a bottle deposit just for Baltimore City. It's just not going to work. So we would have to think about a public-private partnership and then have like a reverse vending type of situation. But where do we put them? Is it at grocery stores? Because everybody goes to the grocery store anyway, which is what other states do. Is it at Sisson and the other sites because they check IDs? Because what could happen is that people from the county are going to come and, go through. I'm serious. And so like that's super real. So do we have it just at our sites that people know that they can get paid there because they have, you know what I mean? Like there's those kinds of situations that we still need to figure out. But the fact that we're moving in a direction of recycling, and it seems very clear that people need another site or at least feel like it's important to have one, then that's important. And then also to Marianne's point about the commercial, I think we're going to have to deal with that because we're going to be building more multifamily housing. If they're not providing, I mean, in Charles Village, because we have there's some of that, but I'm going to have to look into how we can change the law there so that it has to be required that they do that they have solid waste and recycling available.
Office buildings as well.
And office buildings. And our institutions, by the way, 40% of the waste that goes into the incinerator is our big, or not some big percentage, is actually our big institutions. The ones that don't pay taxes, by the way.
And I would also add, but Odette, you also need enforcement. If you don't have enforcement, it's not going to happen.
Right. So I think this was important to have this larger conversation. I know we kind of went into different places. I do want to button it up a little bit, Keandra and Kristen, and then sort of think about the next steps relative to this conversation. Go ahead.
Sure. And I just want to say for the record, it costs money to do this.
Right.
Advertising, pushing people, putting, whether it's info, like commercials out or like billboards, that all costs money. And so when we said with the funding going to Reed Bird and going to Bowley's, that maybe earmarking a percentage of that for that intention, because it's going to cost a lot of money. And I just want to say that out loud because people get shocked at that. But to change people's actions and, that's mailings, that's creating literature, it's a lot of work and it costs a lot of money. But if in the long term people are invested in that, that's great. And I also think that part of that education is letting people know, hey, when contractors are dumping, that has nothing to do with Sisson because Sisson doesn't take contractor waste.
That's exactly right.
And I think there's a lot of confusion around that too, that and I'm wondering, and this is totally an aside because it's not under our banner at all, but what we can do about that, like what's DPW's plans for those
actually
things?
No, this is absolutely related. So if you look at the plans for Reed Bird and Bowley, so right now the small haulers can only go to one place, and that's Northwest, which is also the place that our trash trucks go to in addition to the landfill. So the lines are very long and it's very difficult, right? So the idea behind the plans for Bowley's and Sisson is that they would both also take small haulers in a separate part of the facility. And then that stuff is moved away. And so that I think will help to, the small haulers in East Baltimore will actually have a place that they can go to for that. I do think that there's still an enforcement issue there that we need to address. And we may want to try to incentivize, we have to be creative about how we do this because there's the licensed small haulers that we know and we can measure, and then there's those that are not, right? So it's absolutely part of this conversation. One of the reasons why we see this and the illegal dumping is because there's one place for the small haulers. Well, I guess they can take it to quarantine, but it's not as convenient. So they go up to Northwest.
Chairwoman,
yes.
Quick, I apologize. I do have to make one point of clarification.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
All right. So when we're talking, this is Deputy Director Robinson. When we're talking about the small hauler expansion, they actually do have two places. They can go to Northwest or they can go to quarantine. Landfill. Landfill,
I stand corrected.
However, as far as the renovations are concerned between Bowley's and Reedburg, we're only enhancing the small hauler program at the Bowley's Lane location, because
Oh.
it requires a scale house. We have more land to actually build the proper facility
All right, that's
for
a
the
good
scale
point of
house to
clarity.
receive and all of that.
Quarantine is very close to free.
And yes, and quarantine is actually pretty close to rebirth. So we will be enhancing the small hauler program over on the east side at that
At Bowley's.
sustainability hub that we're going to be building over there at Bowley's.
Okay, thank you for the correction. I'm glad that you interrupted me. So just to repeat, the small haulers will have an additional place. So there's Quarantine, there's Northwest, and would be Bowley's Lane. Yeah, yeah. But that is it is. I think the small hauler program itself is a whole conversation that has to be had, because there's the licensed ones that pay a fee. There's also the tipping fees that they pay at Quarantine. And so how would that even work at Bowley's? Because, so it is. Do you want to,
Yeah, so if you are part of the small haulers program, it's a fixed fee. A tipping
oh,
fee.
it's not a
Yeah,
tipping
yeah,
fee?
yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Correct?
That is
Yeah, yeah.
They don't
Tipping,
pay tipping fees at Quarantine?
the Quarantine Road, if you are coming in as just a regular hauler, you pay a tipping fee. If you are part of the small haulers program, you pay a flat fee, and it's a flat per ton rate, which is not the same rate as the tipping fee for our normal customers who would come there. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is significantly less. Like it's the best kept secret in this. Yes.
I want to just ask one quick question.
Yep.
DPW used to send out a calendar every year. Are you all still doing?
Oh,
that?
yeah, this calendar came out this
Did
week.
you not get your calendar?
I haven't gotten it yet.
Oh,
Okay,
no, we
well,
got
I'll
the
look for it.
calendar.
Oh.
Anyway, I just want you to know that is one
We
of the
love the
great,
calendar.
one of the greatest tools, and I think that that's part of the educational process.
Everybody
put-
loves the DPW
You
calendar,
can
by
put
the way.
you can put a cover on it. And, people actually, like nerds like us, we keep those things and we know, well, April is when we can start taking this to that place or whatever. But it's a great tool to start this educational campaign. And even the apartment renters, they should be getting it. I assume they're getting it. I don't know.
Goes to every household.
It goes to every household.
And then maybe it needs to go
Yeah.
to every management agent, and maybe every management agent needs to circulate it
Yeah.
to their residents. That is a huge breakdown. We've got 65% renters now. I mean, it's a big portion of the population.
Yeah, for sure. Sandy and then Jed.
I want to stress that the education component is so serious, and happily, it's not a part of the capital funds.
It's
So
operating.
it's an operation fund. So it needs to be made a high priority
Mm-hmm.
for the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we're in the middle of, we're starting the negotiation process. So that's good. Jed, you've been having your hand
Yeah.
hovering there for a while.
Jed Weeks with Bike More. I mean, I've just been listening to everything. I maybe to go all the way back to Keandra and talking about, I think Keandra, you were talking about like overburdened and underserved designations for environmental justice and the EJ scores.
That's right.
I think a lot of the testimony that I saw that was in favor of keeping it open was coming from, and it was all over the city, but specifically neighbors to our north, in neighborhoods like Hamden and Guilford and Roland Park. Those neighborhoods have much lower environmental justice scores than a neighborhood like Remington. And so, for example, Remington is over 90, the scale 0 to 100. 100's bad. Reservoir Hills over 90 also. Those neighborhoods are in their 70s or 80s. And so I think if we are able to distribute more resources for those neighbors to feel convenient in their neighborhoods, which also have these lower scores, the impact is going to be a lot lower to most city residents. And the slight negative impact there, like, oh yes, hazardous waste is going to be on this parking lot during the summer for a couple days. They can complain about that if they want to, and that's okay because they can take that burden a little bit. I think a lot of this stuff is going to cost a lot more money. There is an avenue to generating that money, and it is selling the Sisson Street property to have that money. Right now, we don't have any capital plans to improve that site. We have no money to improve that site. selling that site and getting the tax money for it and the sale money for it is a way that we can get funding to enhance some of these services. I know that's a little chicken and eggy, but even if we can project that revenue in the future, like if we know we're going to sell it in 3 years or 5 years or 2 years or whatever, then, you know, we can at least sort of project that we could use that money at the time of the sale to further enhance services. I don't know. I just really like the idea. I think one thing that worked well in COVID was we distributed out a lot of this stuff, right? Like Sisson was sometimes open and it had the trucks there, and you walked up and you threw your recycling in the truck, but sometimes those trucks were on parking lots in other parts of the city, and that brought the convenience to citizens. And I think the other like really nice part of that is it also helps people who don't have access to a car access these services, and that's something I saw in a number of pieces of testimony was some Remington residents even who don't own a car and try to walk to Sisson and they're turned away. And because it's just like, you can't have a pedestrian walking up on that ramp. It's not safe. And so, you know, you can drop your oysters off, but you can't drop your trash off. And so like having these facilities spread throughout neighborhoods in a little more pop-up way, I think allows people that access that they don't have right now. It might help.
I think this is Kristen Sinclair at the Hampton Community Council. I think like some of like the things that you're saying and highlighting what Keandra is saying make absolute sense. And I think it is chicken and egg. And that's part of the problem is you kind of need both to do anything because we have to rebuild trust with the residents. We have to adjust different systems in terms of making sure that everything is working well before anything's shut down. And that costs money. Education costs money. Just closing it and getting the money to do the things, that's not going to work either. So I think like there is a lot of education's a big one. I think that I also saw some of the things where people were mentioning that during COVID, Sisson was like, like a godsend. Right. So there was that too. And I think they also look at Sisson as any trucks that are in my area, they're coming from Sisson. It's like they're almost making the connection of I go here, they're helping me during this time of COVID. That's the same thing, but they're not thinking of it, even if it's different. They're seeing it because the brand presence of Sisson is the best brand presence that the DPW has. Right. So I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean the community loves
attributed to Mr. Bennett and his crew. Really.
I think that there's definite things that need to be done for the people that work there. I also wonder too, this was one question I had, and I saw in some of the emails I was reviewing, what is going to happen to the workers and the headquarters of Sisson if it's closed? Like, where are they going to go? Are they going to be laid off? Are they going to be redistributed? I think that's something we might have talked about that before, but I just want it on record to make sure that the team I feel like the neighborhood would be like, what if the team wasn't taken care of? Because it is so loved by the community. But yeah, I think that if we could find viable options that make sense for all of these different neighborhoods, I think we should look into that. But I also think we can't put the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart. We have to have the cart and the horse together at the same time and be able to ride as we go.
That's why this is challenging for sure. Yeah, thank you. I think that I'm
sorry, Chair. If I may, I just do want to touch on that one point that you made about the staffing at Sisson throughout this entire transition. Do want to be clear that at no point do we plan on doing any type of layoffs or cuts based upon any transition of Sisson Street location. So the staff will be appropriately relocated to the nearby site, wherever that might be, or other functions, but everyone will maintain employment with the city.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very important. Keandra?
Keandra Pryor, Reservoir Hill Association. I haven't done that. And the other thing that I just want to say out loud, because it was repeated so many times, is that this whole thing is just an exercise. And no matter what this task force recommends, the mayor is going to do what the mayor wants to do. Right. And so, yeah, that came up a lot. And I think it would be helpful for us to just really clearly explain that I think the mayor asked us to do this. Right. And so we should take that at his word that he's going to at least listen to our recommendations and take them into consideration when making the final decision. But I just wanted to say that out loud, that was repeated often and, throughout.
Yes. And I'm trying to find a time with the mayor so that we can, I mean, he's been briefed by the deputy mayor. I've talked to him a little bit, but I want to give an opportunity at some point for him to meet with us to present our findings. So I am trying to find a date. So that it's not just us handing him a report and going, okay, see you later, bye. You know, that's not what this is. We've spent a lot of time and effort, and I know he wants to hear from us. That's kind of the whole point, right? So obviously there's a lot to consider, but I think we're really, I mean, I don't know what other stone we can unturn. Because we've really tried to I think do that. So so I am trying to find that time. It kind of depends on when we feel like we're wrapping up. But and then also Chairwoman Porter has offered a time for a briefing, for us to provide a briefing to the Public Health and Environment Committee of the City Council as to the findings and the work and all of that. So we're working on a date there because this is such, again, it's not just about this little site, it's about all of these other things. And I know that so I think that there's a real impact here. So just want to make sure that people know that the intent is to meet with the mayor at some point and talk with him about it, and then also with the council so that everybody's clear. And the other thing is that I've been really intentional about as you know, dragging you all down to City Hall to make these meetings as open as possible so that people can see what our deliberations are. So that's important also. So
yeah, Madam CW, I just wanted to reiterate the point about the connection with the mayor. One, he's been briefed throughout the process.
Yeah.
You know, we've been making sure that both he and the chief of staff, JD Merrill, are aware of what's happening, and which has been great. But we have made formal request for a time when the mayor can meet with the task. Yeah, you have, and I have, and so it will happen. Just stay tuned. You know, hang on. But I think what they really, really wanted to do is to have the final recommendations and then have that briefing. So, you know, as y'all move towards wrapping up your work, we're also parallel working on getting that date with the mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And because this was one of the only discussions we've had in person, I think our discussion has been a lot more dynamic than what we've had. So you know, I'm feeling like there may need to, well, let's just sort of time check here. We may need to, I don't want to take because we've got 20 minutes left to noon. We can certainly go longer if people feel like we're able to go longer and try to come to some conclusion, or if we need more information. So let's just go over the spreadsheet real quick so that we get a sense. But this has been a really great process. We can also you know, I want to do some work on the paper, but I also know that we can't all work on a Google Doc because of public meetings. So we could do a little bit of work on it, at least to do some outlining, and then go from there. So if let me just move this over here, and I just want to say thank you to the task force for spending so much time on that discussion, but also looking at the emails, we actually, you know, reading and public comment, you know, this is what democracy is all about. It's messy, but it works. Well, we're not going to go
The one question
there.
I got, and
I could go there. Okay.
Oh, I apologize. The one question I got was whether or not, and I might have missed it, whether or not there was a tally, or if it's possible
That's what
to
we're
do a
doing
tally.
right now. That's what we're doing right now.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yep.
I would, sorry,
ahead.
this is Sam from GRIA.
Sure.
I would also like to add that, as I'm sure you've all heard from this discussion, obviously this tally is not like a vote, right? Like this is in
not
addition to the holistic conversation.
That's correct.
It's just another thing I wanted to add to the record, especially because some of these emails were challenging to tally in the sense we talked about. A lot of them said, I would like you to keep it open but if
Mhm.
you close it, we
Mhm.
need this. So
Mhm.
those are, there's a lot of nuance, and that's how we're approaching
That's right.
this.
That's right.
It's also important to remember that for the public that's listening, a lot of these emails were forwarded, so we may have some duplications and things like that. Yes.
Yeah, that is correct. And I appreciate that you brought that up because this is the tally is not a vote, period. And but it provides us the discussion and the looking at the emails provides us with a sense of what people are thinking about. It gives us insight into the fact that we need a lot more education. You know, that was one of the big themes. We also know that there were several that came in that were not responding to the paper directly, to the three options. And that's just the way life goes, but that's, you know, something to take a look at. So I do have a question for some of the reviewers here. Sam and Keandra, you had some things in parentheses here. So,
Probably the same thing in a duplicate.
you think so? Okay.
Was it, am I allowed to say? Am I allowed to name names of who submitted things? I don't know what the rules are regarding this testimony. There was one person who submitted screenshots from Nextdoor that I would argue should not, I wouldn't count those as votes. But that same person also included a list of names that almost looked like a petition, and I did count those.
Mhm.
So I counted the list of names, but not the Nextdoor comments.
Yep. So I know this situation.
And it-
Add that also was submitted, I think,
Multiple
3 or
times.
4 times. And
Uh-huh.
so, you know, it was in Keandra's, it was in
Right.
Sam's, it was in John's, and it was
Yeah.
in mine.
Yep. Yeah, I did not, because when we assigned pages, I didn't look at duplicates. I just
No.
assigned pages. So, because it was 660 pages. So that's important to understand. Also, the particular constituent we're talking about did send those to me directly, and I said those have to be submitted to the task force email because it's that's where we're keeping all of the records, and that we would encourage that people email directly the Sisson email. You know, lesson for us is, you know, we were posting on Facebook and Instagram. I know I didn't post on Nextdoor, right? Which is where this thing came from. So that's part of the sort of where are the avenues where people are getting their information. I have somebody looking at Nextdoor for me. I can't look at it all the time because oh boy. So same with Instagram and Facebook. Like I just, you know, whatever. So that just sort of word to us is that, you know, Nextdoor seems to be a place where there are lots of people that need that outreach. So that's important to look at.
I do want to make a point of clarification because things were moving so fast as we were trying to gather more testimony. We extended the deadline. And I think the Sisson Street email was not as readily available at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is why Dana and Odette, your emails were there.
Mhm.
And then I think we had the Sisson Street and we're pushing it on the extension. So that's why I think we might have some duplications in
Yeah,
areas.
for sure.
So just a point of clarification for as we're moving so fast through all of this.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like there were I spent an entire weekend answering emails and making sure that they got into as you all saw. So that's, you know, but at least we were able to record those. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm John Ellsbury from Stonehill. I'd just like to say that I conducted just a general poll of people in my specific neighborhood, and they sent me emails directly as opposed to sending them to the Sisson Street site. Mm-hmm. So that was a sort of a separate poll that I have not included in this data.
Okay.
Also, I received a few emails from specific businesses that had a whole roster of employees that signed and with their emails as well.
Mm-hmm. So we should submit those just because I want to make sure that we have everybody's input at some point. So if you've got documentation, that would be good. So
would you like me to include the emails that I received from the Stonehill neighborhood?
The Yes.
send that.
Just send it
email
to
directly
to
back.
the Sisson Street Task Force email
Okay.
box. Yeah.
Sandy Sparks, Friends of the Jones Falls. It seems that there's so many caveats that creating an actual tally would not, in the end, be fruitful. That we've already gotten the general feelings, or feelings is the wrong word. Maybe some of them are feelings, but certainly opinions, that we know where we're kind of going. I think we've had a very fruitful discussion, and understand people are coming from a lot of different places, and they don't all follow form. Many don't follow form, and so that I would advise us that we not take an actual tally, because it'll then come back to haunt us.
I actually disagree, because I think it gives us a good consensus of the community in general, even if it's just a tally of what we have on the spreadsheet right now. If we get like a tally and it's like 100 to 150 to 5, like it gives us a general sense of what the community gave us. And I think that is important for the community, especially as the public is listening. I don't think we should discount, because we spent a lot of time going through all of this and it's very important. So I do think it's important to say, okay, the community is split just like we're split, or everybody wants to move it, or like, I do think that is a really important part of this. So I don't think we should discount it, just to be fair.
Yeah, I think coming up with a hard number is impossible.
Correct.
Yeah, because there's so many
Yeah,
repeats.
but-
There's
so
so
many
many repeats.
And I think what the community is split, I think, is a fair summation of what we have in here to date. If you include, I tallied up what I screenshotted on Nextdoor, it's basically an even split of option 1, option 2 in the tally we have here, plus the testimony that we received in person and the stuff we got at the last meeting. If you remove, 54 Nextdoor comments, and which might be double counted in that, then it's like overwhelmingly option 2. So I would prefer, rather than trying to make a determination on what we're counting, just leaving that in there and saying it's decidedly mixed.
Which is a fact.
Which is a fact. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
The other thing,
even if option 2 was 150 more, there's still a lot of people who want option 1. I'm comfortable saying that's decidedly mixed.
Yeah, I just think having the tally is important because people submitted their individual testimonies. So whether we count everything all at once, we have the spreadsheet here, and I think somebody else already just tallied it. It's right there. So it gives us a sense for the things. I think it's just important to acknowledge that the community spent time submitting this, and we're taking that into account.
I think, it's going to be hard to sort of sort out the repeats. We'd have to take time outside of here to do that. And I think that's something to think about. But we're also going to be continuing to hear from residents as we go through this process. So, yeah, Keandra.
Yeah, the other thing I would want to add to when we have this discussion about this information is that so many people had caveats in their messages.
Right.
And, yes, if, or no, if. So I think that does muddy the waters. And in a way, basically what it says is that it's more than just about this. It's more about, as we talked about earlier, trust that if we decide to do this, especially in option 2, will DPW be able to do the things that we think they should be doing as part of essential services.
Right.
And we don't have the answer to that.
Right.
And the problem is we have to make sure that we get a commitment, and then, like you said, that we do it over time so that we can demonstrate success. If we don't demonstrate success in any one area, it's done.
Yep. Go ahead, Keandra.
Keandra Pryor, Reservoir Hill. And what stood out to me the most, and probably to all of us, is that option 3 was by far the least.
Yeah.
We came in here really thinking that's what our mandate was to find a new location. And it seems very clear that people are like, no, I don't want you to necessarily find a new location. It's either keeping it open or you're sunsetting it and it's going to close. And obviously there are some people that were still offering options for moving. I'm not saying no one said that, but it was by far, I was surprised. I was personally surprised going through my emails how I think I had one or two or maybe three people that said that. And I was expecting more of, oh, maybe this option or move it here. And I saw a lot less of that. So that was surprising to me.
Yeah. I do want to take a second and put the DPW letter on the record. So they DPW submitted, which we'll add to the website. Can I borrow yours? Because I don't know that I have one. Thank you. DPW submitted a letter. It's dated the 12th. I wanted to just make sure that we had it when we needed it, which now is a good time. Deputy Director, do you want to go over your letter real quick?
Hey, this is Dana. Before the deputy director speaks, I just wanted to add to the comment about the tally. I think it's really critical that there be a tally as close to accuracy as possible. That supports the whole nature of this effort, which was to engage with community, to do so in a way that was fully transparent and engaging. And so however the tally comes out, that's how the tally comes out. And just understand, it's just one more factor among many that the task force has been asked to consider as they work towards their recommendations. But I think it would be error to not make the effort to share that tally. And I heard someone say, if we don't, someone else will. It really needs to come from the task force. So
Right.
I just wanted to add that to the considerations, to the conversation rather.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. We just need to weed out the repeats. I mean, that's the problem right now. Like, I don't think we can do an accurate tally today because we do not have, we need to take out the repeats. Because
Yeah.
again, the
Yeah,
pages
it
that
won't
were
be today.
assigned. Yeah.
Hi, this is
So-
Sam from GRIA. I actually, like I said, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole yesterday. Maybe I missed my calling as a staffer. I did log many of these and I'm happy to finish it and share that log with the group. I started at my page, which was about page 60. So probably about 40 to 50 pages in, 40 to 50 letters worth. And I made it, I think through maybe most of Sandy's or whatever, a couple hundred. I made it through like probably 500 pages of the 660. So I'm happy to finish and share with recognition that, again, these tallies are a little bit human influenced and you have to kind of read through the letters and make assumptions sometimes. But I'm happy to keep going with that and share.
Okay.
And I noted duplicates and did not count those already. So that's already in my tally.
But
That's what I did with mine as well.
Yeah.
I just,
mine
that leads
too.
to bike more. I just say again, like, because so many of them say, we would basically take either option. You know, we like one, but we do two if this happens. Like, you can't really tally that as a 1 or a 2.
That's
right?
correct.
So,
Yeah.
and yeah, so
So maybe it's
anyone
another.
is going to go through the
Yes.
document at some point and do their own tally, and that's, you know, like,
Yeah. 'cause
and
we're
they
gonna
might
post
come
it.
up with a different opinion than me or Sam or anyone else on the commission based on their own human interpretation of what someone is saying. And that's why, like, we just will never have a definitive number. It's just not going to happen.
Then I think
Yeah,
we
I
need
don't
to
think there will be
classify
an
that as a
exact
separate
number, but there will be, you can
option.
have a category that says, yes, close
She's
it,
gonna say it.
no, one that
Yeah.
says keep it open, close it, and then other suggestions. So
Well,
I think
we
need
do have-
we need to go through that exercise for the sake of public transparency and the authenticity of the process and honoring people's, comments.
Right.
I feel
No,
strongly about that one, obviously.
I know,
as you
but
can tell.
if you look at the spreadsheet, we already have a column for option 1, a column for option 2, a column for option 3, and then interesting notes. I actually had a separate one also, which I put in my notes for one that had like people wanted to not have it immediately close, or no, to go ahead and immediately close, which we aren't considering, but I wanted to put it in here. And then there's these nuances. It's hard to classify the nuances as to where they are going, but that's okay. I mean, we could create another column that says nuanced or whatever.
I strongly recommend that. And I think then it's a clear indication of the public sentiment. And that Sam has already done a ton of work and maybe she can go back and add another column.
Yeah, I have an other / no explicit choice. So.
Oh, you've
some-
already sort of done that.
Yeah, so some folks, I can talk through the way I did it. I'm sure we all did it slightly different ways. When folks said explicitly option 1, option 2, option 3, easy peasy. There were a number that were just like letters with questions and comments. So I included those in other or just nothing.
Yeah.
Obviously duplicates I did not count. Some were kind of 50-50, so I put them a tally in each. So some were, if you close it, if this, then this, if this, then this. I gave those a tally for each of the things they suggested because I think those are both valid things. And I'm a big fan of ranked voting. So.
So I
But I
think,
do think that-
Sam is on to
I do think that
giving an accurate count.
instead of doing a tally for each one, though, I think it's a separate column. I think it's a separate column that says, people said, well, it's not really undecided. It's more about like, they want this service. Okay. But if we go one way that we have to do X, Y, and Z, which is basically what we've all been saying. Okay. So it would be that column. So it would literally be another option. Or actually it's a combination of the two, but it's like, I think just recording those, Sam, if you don't mind, I'm sorry. That's a lot of pages to go through too. Okay.
I mean, I think what I would do is I would just go back to the ones that I tallied to and fix those as opposed to going back.
Of course. Yeah.
So I don't think that would be too much.
Keep track of those.
So what's good is you're almost 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah, I did a lot. I got a little time blind. I have 349 or about 345 letters logged.
I think that's accurate. Just looking at the inbox
So-
for the Sisson Street. I think that's correct. I'm going to take the councilman and then, Keandra, go ahead.
Councilman Jermaine Jones, District 12. So if we're going to do that, I remember seeing some letters that said, that mentioned to keep Sisson open if it was fully functional and fully funded, right? Like, how would we even tally that if we're saying we don't have the funds or it won't fully function the way, that's kind of some of the nuance that I wasn't even sure how to do. I mean, well, a lot of these things are nuanced. I felt like one thing I did discover through all of our research and site tours is that like the future plans of a transfer station, Sisson Street doesn't necessarily meet those requirements. So like, even if people want to leave it open, is the goal to leave it open and not ever be able to fully develop it in a way in which we would like to see a transfer station develop? Like, is that a choice that we're going to make? I wouldn't feel comfortable making that decision. So like, is that an option really even on the table if it's not going to meet the future goals of a transfer station?
This is Kristen Sinclair, Hampton Community Council. I agree, but I think that's also a little bit in option 1 too. We did mention in option 1, if it's kept open, that it needs to be funded in the next whatever fiscal something. We did have that in there. So in my mind, that's I think it still needs to be addressed, but I think that it still is option 1.
You're right, but then it's a caveat that then I will go back to DPW and say, can we fully make it? Is it even possible?
Right.
No, and
Well,
that's
what
the thing.
they're-
I'm not getting the answer.
They're
That's
saying that
possible.
exactly in this letter, that it's like we, in addition to some of the capital stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
No, I think that obviously we have opportunity as the council, if it was overwhelming to keep it open, which it's not, to figure that out, right? So, but there's lots of conversation around what are the other things. I mean, there's some investments that we need to put into just the everyday workings of DPW right now, I think that our crews do a great job in terms of picking up in the alleys, recycling, all of that. The challenge is also like what they're seeing back there, as we all know what some of our alleys are looking like. There's still some more work to be done with our crews, but also to your point about the multifamily, like that is a really big deal. And
54%.
yeah, No, and yeah. So that, I mean, just knowing that piece has to be addressed. We can do it by, I'm already going to figure out how to change the law, but also that we now know that, people who are in buildings have not had the opportunity to have this type of service for them. So
Yeah, then also remember the question is, will DPW now have that impact of all those renters recycling, or will it be that commercial property that does it? Think about that impact. I mean, I think in our block, we've got 20 houses and 10 of them are multifamily, and they all have at least 4 units, both sides of the alley. So it's 40. And where does that stuff go? Who's going to take responsibility? Just imagine the impact on DPW if they have to pick up all renters' recycling. That's just for thought.
Well, that's what happens in Charles Village. So in Charles Village, the owners are supposed to, I think the law already says that they have to provide receptacles. It doesn't say sanitation and recycling. It just says receptacles. Okay. And particularly those that are multifamily, like houses, right? Single family, they're not considered commercial. So then there's the buildings that are the bigger buildings.
Then they are.
It depends.
Private pickup.
Can I just jump in here? It's important and interesting stuff. It's not directly related to us
No, I
trying
know,
to get
I
to
know.
1, 2, or 3.
I know.
And I think
I don't know that we're going to get to
So
1, 2, or 3.
just at that, like,
Yeah.
We have 600 pages of public comment that we have read. We have 3 options before us. We have one option that DPW is telling us they cannot achieve, which is invest in it further and meet the needs of the facility, the workers, everyone there. So like, it's hard for me to see how we could make a recommendation on option 1, knowing that we cannot achieve the recommendation we would make at that site. And so just, it is March. We were supposed to deliver a report at the end of the year. Personally, I would like, we have option 3 off the table basically already. I would like to spend time focusing on how we can make option 2 happen with our remaining time, because I don't want to sit in a dozen more meetings where we talk about the entire zero waste strategy for the city. Like we just got to, all very important, all very interesting. I personally love it, but also like we do need to deliver a report with a recommendation at some point. I do think there are still some real guardrails, even regardless of the option we decide. At some point, if we did option 2, a disposition ordinance will have to be introduced to actually sell the property. The 2 council people are on this task force who, would probably have councilmanic courtesy on that. Like there's still some real power there to work through details after a report is made. I don't know that we're going to be able to get from DPW answers to every single thing imaginable that we might want to know before getting to option 2. And so I do think pulling out some of the stuff and just saying like DPW needs to show us that they can do this in 3 years.
Right.
And that's the condition. And like our council people aren't going to vote for an ordinance on this unless we see that stuff happening. But I just like, I don't think we can sit here for another month or 2 and come up with like a 300-page list of recommendations that DPW needs to achieve. It's just going to take forever.
Yeah, I
think-
appreciate that. And then Kristen, then Keandra, and then I do want to wrap it up because we are.
I think it's highly important to not just discount option 1. You're diving right into option 2. Yeah. I understand why, but I do think I think we can eliminate option 3. I think we could agree to that and vote on that if we want to. But with option 1 and 2, I think there needs to be a stipulation in both options of DPW. We need to see what DPW can do to meet these needs and what is actually possible, to some of your points too. And I also think we cannot remove option 1 until we fully understand the effects that it's going to have environmentally on Bowley's Lane and Rebird and some of the other stuff we talked about in the beginning from an environmental justice perspective. I think it is highly important for us to understand how we are going to affect the other neighborhoods before that gets removed. And I don't think it should be removed at this point because I think we're split down the middle and we need to see what's viable on both sides, especially if we're going to do zero waste. So that is my.
I appreciate that. So
thoughts.
I just want to have the deputy director go over the, I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilman, and then the deputy director, and then we'll go to the next discussion.
I hear what you're saying and follow you in the idea of eliminating 3, but then looking at 1 and 2. But I was kind of looking at it backwards of just eliminating 1 and maybe even considering 2 and 3 on the table, because other locations, that's kind of an infinite thing that we can kind of put out, not infinite, but really dive into the other potential locations, whether or not something works or doesn't work, because our decision isn't necessarily based upon the tally of the public testimony, because the public testimony would say, eliminate 3, right? But if our decision is based upon kind of what would be in the best interest of the city, I would still leave open 3 and maybe almost take 1 off the table, because after touring like the facility and after hearing from DPW, it kind of sounded like that site just didn't fit the conditions. Now, if like the tally is going to dictate our decision making, then yeah, I understand why we lean in that direction. But if we're looking at Sisson Street is possibly closing or finding another location for it, I could kind of see that conversation in that direction.
I think there's 2 things here, and a sense that I've gotten that it's always going to be closed at some point in the future. There was a sense of that originally when we first started. But I also think we can't even remove it from the table until we kind of look at how it affects zero waste rules. Because that was goals. Right. That was brought up last time by Torrance. I think of us connecting the dots a little bit more, and I don't think we've really done the work to understand, because I do think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we remove Sisson before we figure that out. Because in order for people to pick up recycling habits, the convenience will be important. We need to figure out other convenient options so that those habits can be enforced. And I think that is why I'm kind of against removing 1 at this time.
I will say that one of the deputy mayor did suggest, which we did not consider at all and have not discussed, is this York Road location, which is in the North Baltimore area, and could be, it's very small. It's really small. It's extremely small. So it would not be, I would say, not used for the sanitation, but for the recycling. Okay. It is extremely small, and it will be off limits at certain times because of the snow situation. I mean, again, I thought we would never have snow ever again, but here we are. So, so that's the case. I want to just take a second and give the deputy director time to go over this letter with us, to put that on the record, and then we'll go back to the discussion around how we want to move towards the next steps on our decision making. So, deputy director, go ahead.
All right. So good afternoon now, all. Alan Robinson, Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works. What we are just putting into record is a quick summary of our perspective. And we're just coming from an operational perspective. We're not talking about any type of economic or community development perspective. We're just focusing strictly on operations, right? One of the things we just wanted to note was that all the things that we're talking about are things we've taken into consideration. What is going to be the impact on the community? What is going to be the impact on our operations, and having the capacity to receive any additional footprint? As we've denoted in our data that we've shared, we recognize that Sisson is one of our heavily used ones, but we recognize one of the reasons that it is because of the structure of it, right? The convenience of being able to drive up on a ramp, push your materials over and down into a roll-off can makes it a lot simpler than when you go to our Rebird or Bowley's facilities. However, with that said, we are looking to consolidate the various functions into a larger campus type facility at both Bowley's and Rebird, which would then incorporate that type of level of convenience of being able to drive up a ramp, hit a bay, and then push down your materials into the appropriate bins. These locations will ultimately double in size the capacity that we currently have at each one of these facilities. So that's kind of what we're talking about in the letter. We recognize that one of our key pieces is also that in order for us to close Sisson, we do have to have one of these others up online. And primarily we're looking at perhaps the rebirth being done first, because this project should be completed within 3 years from the start of construction. But during that period, once we get into heavy construction, there will be no residential drop-off opportunities there. We will be pushing that traffic down to Quarantine, or for those folks who are willing to also participate in the free-for-all that is Northwest Transfer Station, they can go there. But with that said, we recognize that the Bowleys Lane improvements, which will be much larger in scope and will take much longer than Rebird, we're expecting that we're right now currently at about 60% design on that location. We expected that once we are ready to go, it's going to be probably about a 5-year project to do all that we want to do. While it will be phased in, and there's an opportunity for us to phase in the residential drop-off center a little bit sooner than the rest of the design that we're looking for our aerated composting and some of the other things that we're looking to do at that facility. We do say that, in order for us to maintain the capacity for the city, we have to have one, if not both of these up and running before we decide to sunset Sisson. And that's pretty much what the letter kind of talks about, right? We're saying that, of course, we will have a comprehensive transition plan. This is not going to be done in a vacuum. We will be talking with the community as we're doing right now. We are working with our comms team, both internally at DPW as well as in the mayor's comms team, to really talk about what some of those things are. And we've gotten great suggestions from this group, as well as the community members who've come to these various conversations about things that we definitely know we need to do. So things that we are considering are like expanded hours at our various facilities, utilizing the smaller sites such as York Road for a more centralized, focused purpose. For example, using it for recycling, for using it for our community business districts who are using Sisson on a regular to dispose of, right? Making sure that we have that convenience there. But we're also enhancing our bulk trash collection. We talked about that being a curbside a source, an option for folks, right? So right now, we recognize that there's a backlog, but we have requested additional funding for additional staff to be able to launch that in the next fiscal year of 27 once this budget is approved. And hopefully that option will be approved as part of that. And I understand the concern. We want to make sure we are at a show me state, right? So these are things that we're putting on the table. So expanded hours at the current facilities, increasing our bulk collection, curbside bulk collection, looking at our smaller facilities to see how we can utilize and activate those for specific needs. We're definitely going to work with our partners over at DHCD on the code enforcement piece of it. That's the biggest piece.
We've asked for more dollars for more inspectors. I think all of us have asked for that in our enhancements. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So yes, no, that's one of the key things, because it does have to work hand in hand. We do have to have the carrot and the stick when it comes to this to change public behavior. But the carrot piece, that's the outreach, the communication, us going into the neighborhoods, working with our council members, working with our community leaders to make sure we're getting the word out about what resources are out there and how folks can better dispose of their materials. We are launching a full court press with our Zero Waste Initiative. We want to make sure folks understand what that is. We have several hearings slated that we're going to be using those as educational opportunities to talk about what zero waste really is and how we are moving towards that. So taking a lot of this into consideration, as I stated, this letter right here is just a short synopsis, just kind of puts our perspective into play. We're looking at it from an operational standpoint and what is best for the flow of capacity, what we currently have for receiving all the materials that we do receive. And this letter was written by the director, who is sitting at the end of the table. So if you have any direct questions, I'm going to go ahead and point to him and let him answer those, give him the opportunity to do so. But that's essentially what the letter is stating.
Thanks, Deputy Director.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that we have this, that it's on the record. We'll make sure that it's posted on the website also. I do want to acknowledge that the Sustainability Commission has been working very diligently with DPW on accelerating the zero waste goals, and kind of all of this conversation is coming to a head where it's like, we're serious now. We're also very serious because it's been very clear, Chair Porter was very clear that the incinerator is closing in 2031, which means, and we are all backing her up, every single member of the council. So which means that there's a lot that needs to be done in the next 7 years or whatever the math is, 6 years. Yeah. 5 years, to make that happen. So the two council members and I will look at this commercial piece to make sure it's very clear that that commercial entities have to have both recycling and trash service, so that we can do. And also, I think we have to make a very concerted effort with our institutions as well. I mean, the fact that Hopkins doesn't compost or is just now starting to compost is ridiculous to me, right? So we've got I think a lot ahead of us, but it all has to do with this conversation as well. But the fact that DPW is interested in looking at what are some, like for instance, the York Road site for recycling and for the benefits districts, I think is a really good option. And then really having this conversation around the hazardous waste has to occur. And so weaning our dependence on the incinerator, on the landfill, and on Sisson and these other sites, honestly, is something that we need to address. Director, did you want to add to that, or Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I want to add something to that as you're talking about zero waste.
He's on. It's on. It's on.
As you're talking about zero waste, the mayor this year really developed 3 priorities in which to look at with what we call a tiger team, where we get a lot of the minds in the city to kind of concentrate on and trying to figure out 3 specific problems that we have in the city. 2 of those on DOT, and we could talk about that later on if it needs to. But the main one that is of reference to this discussion is the zero waste. So one of those 3 main problems that the mayor is looking at is how we can do better with the zero waste. So we have a team that meets on a weekly basis, with the team from our Office of Performance comes with all the data. We looks at it and evaluate it. I think we met yesterday with DBW leadership. On a weekly basis, we look at it, we look at those numbers, we look at what else we could do. So just to mention that the zero waste piece, while it's relevant to this discussion, it is a bigger conversation that we are taking it very seriously in the mayor's office. To add to that, I mean, the study that we have, and Matt can speak to, the director can speak to that a little bit, that he just initiated over 6 months ago or so, is really looking at, for the first time, at something that we haven't done, right? So we're looking at a way, like we know that the incinerator is it's not the solution for the future. We know that, right? We know that the landfill is not the solution for the future. So zero waste now becomes a much more important aspect of the discussion. Do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I think all of that is sort of our perspective in a nutshell. The thing I want to add is all of our solid waste functions currently are funded through our city's general fund. Yeah. And every year, as the council members know, there's sort of a rob Peter to pay Paul type of thing where you all have to choose very difficult choices over what to do and what not to do. What we have found in some of these very difficult issues is the clearer the target, meaning the date, meaning what is the end result or the outcome, the better we're able to then develop a plan. Mm-hmm. The problem is when we have key critical operations that are always, and I'll admit this, always going to take perspective and precedence over things that aren't well defined, that's going to take the lead. Mm. So The clearer that there are goals, targets, outcomes, the clearer we as a department and as an administration can put together a plan to meet that. Otherwise, it's going to default into how do I pick up the trash? How do I dispose everything? How do I do everything? So I just wanted to add that perspective.
No, I think what you're asking us is you need clear direction.
Very clear.
Clear direction.
Yes.
As to which you got very clearly from Councilwoman Porter the other day.
Yes. Yes.
On the incinerator, which actually the incinerator has a lot of implications because the steam is powering this building, by the way. So we have lots of things that we have to consider as we close it, which are being discussed. And so and a lot of downtown, by the way. So that's one piece of it. I think that again, I know that we were tasked to do one thing and to talk about this thing, but it is obviously has implications writ large. And I think the fact that we've been through a very deliberative process to come up with whatever we come up with is important, but also that we, because we heard from so many people, can say, that and really did it. I mean, we got a lot of information. We've asked you to record more information that you weren't getting before, which I think is still going to be helpful from a metrics following perspective. And I think I've seen the crew do, I need your license plate. I need this, they're excellent. I mean, the fact that that technology was set up in like 2 weeks was just astounding to me. And so I appreciate that. So I think that, continuing that, and we may not take time today to figure out what exactly those metrics would look like, but I do think that it makes sense to set a clear direction and then what are the milestones that need to be met each year before the final thing happens, right? So I know, hold on one second. So Sandy, Sam, Jed, and then, well, the councilman first, because he's the councilman, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead.
After hearing the director speak, I think this is a great opportunity to set the city in the right direction to meet the necessary goals. Well, to set in the right direction so that they can set the agenda up for them to meet those goals. Especially considering Sisson Street, as far as future capacity, isn't kind of in the plan, So I think it's a good opportunity for us to just put that in perspective and set that by at least saying, look, we aren't going to continue to invest in it and spend our time creating the benchmarks that it would take to kind of dwindle down or weed off of our dependency on Sisson Street.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
I
Sam.
Totally agree. And I think the task force has set the stage to raise the priorities for all these DPW problems, to solve them, to fund them, and get them moving. So I'm happy to see that we're now actually looking at the big picture, and that we can, in this process, we've identified some immediate actions that can be taken in the current with the next budget. So I'm happy to see that happening.
Yeah, I have a proposal for moving forward, but I want to hear everybody first.
Yeah, I wanted to just go back to the letter and just drill down a little bit on it. Thank you for the overview, Deputy Director Robinson. Jed Weeks with Bike March, sorry. It basically says if Reedbird is open and you do the things you just talked about, we will be able to accommodate closing Sisson without additional resources beyond what you talked about.
Yes.
Okay. And then with Sisson Street, just again, I know we've talked about this a lot, but it seems like we will not be able to invest in Sisson Street to get the outcomes the people that would like investment in Sisson Street want.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's important. Go ahead, Sam, and then I have a way to move forward.
Those were almost verbatim my exact questions. So I'm really happy to have that emphasis and clear cut. There will not be any investments in Sisson Street, and Reedbird needs to come back online. With that, I think when it comes to our report and our recommendations, I said this earlier in the meeting, I think a lot, to me, the top and almost only metric that needs to be met is for Readbird to come online, and everything else needs to move into a separate section of the report that gets sent to DPW to help DPW and the mayor's office and city council prioritize those budgetary items.
I think there was a nuance also with Bowley's during that, but I understand your point in terms of what the presentation of this. Go ahead, Keandra.
This is just going back to the conversation with the tallying.
Mhm.
I think if there's a question, like it's unclear if it's 1 or 2 and there's caveats, if you could just flag those page numbers, that way we could make a list of the caveats and return those to DPW for them to say, this is not possible, this is possible, not within this framework, whatever, just so that everyone feels heard and they're not thinking we're misinterpreting whatever they're trying to say. The submissions, I mean, that was it.
Yeah. So I think that there's a couple things here. One is we have to be aware of the fact that there's a worry right now in the public about whether or not this will close immediately. And so whatever we come up with today, we need to have a way to talk about this that is very clear about, what we're really talking about and pretty clearly. So just putting that out there. I think it sounds to me that there may be some willingness to think through today how we want to move forward in terms of a decision. If that's not the case, just stop me. But I think that we could propose, and we can talk about how we design the report, that, Sisson is a vital importance now, and that we want certain things to occur, and we can name those for then to close, right? So that it's really acknowledging how important the resource is now, but that we understand that we're going to do all of these other things because of, zero waste and everything that we've talked about, and that certain things have to happen, like Readbird stay open, recycling and the benefits districts go to York Road, the hazardous waste moves, we'll figure out where, the bulk trash, and we reducing dependence on Sisson for then to Sisson to close. We may not, unfortunately, have a time frame, but I do think that because Readbird may be open in the next 3 years, then, we can even suggest that we as a body come back and look at each year or every 2 years how we're doing on those metrics, to then say that we're, holding DPW accountable, or we assign it to the Sustainability Commission or to the Public Health and Environment Committee or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we could assign it to some entity that continues to hold DPW accountable before we end up closing Sisson. And so that would be, I think, with those caveats in mind, the proposal. And again, it acknowledges how important Sisson is, but knowing that we want to make improvements to our systems and that at some point in time, Sisson will not be needed in the DPW infrastructure.
Well, one thing I do want to also consider in that proposal is also not handcuffing the community from like having a vision for that site until the end of the 3 years. I think there's a lot of work that can be done while we work towards closing Sisson, but that work shouldn't start immediately after Sisson closed.
No, of
So,
course.
So how can we also, while we're saying it's not closing, allow the flexibility for the neighborhood to work with what that vision and what that site's going to look like, even while we're working towards the goals. So it's not like, oh, we can't even have a conversation on what, but I don't want people to think just because we're having a conversation on what Sisson's future of Sisson Street will look like mean we're not trying to reach the goals neither. I just wanted to kind of highlight that part and that flexibility.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Chadwick said Bike More. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think we're talking a lot about trash recommendations in here, but we also need development recommendations, right? if we move forward with option 2, the reason we're moving forward with option 2 is the neighborhood wants the site redeveloped.
The reason we're moving forward with option 2 is because we want to reduce dependence on Sisson because we're putting all these other infrastructure in place.
But-
The development, and I understand where Remington is coming from. The development is not the only, the reason we came up with this decision.
That is,
okay.
yeah, for sure. But
Yeah. Which is
but-
why it's only 2 paragraphs in the document.
But I think what no one would want to see, or maybe some people, but I think most people would not want to see Sisson go away and nothing immediately start to go there that's a better use. And
Well,
so
that's a fact, because there's no way that the council will allow for that to be a parking lot. I will just tell you that
exactly.
right now.
So I think, including recommendations that an RFP is reissued, that RFP is conditioned on, dense, walkable, mixed-use development, that maybe we look at rezoning the site in line with the comp plan to have the, more C1 style density that precludes massive surface parking lots without a variance that you would have to introduce, right? Because of the parking maximums, things like that. I think adding a list of stuff like that is saying, like, if we achieve, whatever that closure timeline is, the day it closes and we get rid of this land, there's a pre-development plan to start working on it and put it right back into that productive use, I think is really important.
What do you all think about that? Because I actually want to try to completely separate the 2 options, because the two items, because of how much public perception is that the only reason we're doing this is because of that. Do you know what I mean? And I think that we could, because there's a very clear reason why DPW is planning the way that we are and that we're having these discussions. Right. Exactly. And so I don't know. I mean, I think we can acknowledge that that's the case. But I don't know that we, again, I'm open to what the task force wants to do, but I don't know being as specific as saying and rezone and this and that in this is what we should be doing. But I'm open to all of that. Yeah. You just get the director first.
Just to clear something up. I would not want to leave that site and then have to maintain the site. So if we were to leave it, I would be very clear that I would want to get rid of it in some capacity, because otherwise it's going to stay on our books and we're going to have to maintain it. And then it is going to be it's going to turn from an asset into a liability at that point.
Just as a side note, real quick, could you again clarify for us what is going to happen with the red roof building that's on the site right there by the
That is a
property?
pumping station. So that is a that's a sewage pumping station, I believe. So that is going to stay there. That's a small parcel that's completely contained there. So that is not going to be moving.
Right. Okay. Just to
Yeah.
close the loop on that. Somebody
Yeah,
had a
but that's
question
right
about that.
adjacent to the roadway.
Yes. that's
So yeah.
right. Yep.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Critical.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so just to be clear, what Jed asked earlier, DPW is not investing in Sisson Street in the future.
No, we are not planning to. No.
Okay, just want to level set that. I think what Councilwoman Odette, you mentioned, I think the way that you put it in terms of really advising the public that this is not going anywhere at this moment, and these are the plans on which we are planning on doing things, I think is highly important. I think you can mention, because to Jed's point, it's important to say, because I did see in some of the testimony people going, well, what happens if it just becomes another parking lot? Or what happens if we move it or close it and nothing's done with it? There was comments on that. So I do think it's important to mention something that there would be a public process on educating the community on what's going on with this space, but leave it at that. Because I do think it's important to keep it separate. But again, I also would say part of the caveat of this proposal, if we somewhat Frankenstein pieces of it together from a timeline perspective, I think that it's important to go back to the environmental justice of part of it figuring out the impact for Bullies Lane and Rebird when they reopen, and or like we'll figure that out now while it's in the process of being rehabbed, and educating the public on that and the importance of those sites, I think, is the piece that we don't have in any of these in that
That's
way.
true.
We
That's
just
right.
have the aesthetic part of Rebird, I believe.
That's right. Can you
But-
send me the score thingy, whatever it's called?
Environmental scores.
The EJ score. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So because I have to go in a couple minutes for
Yeah.
me. This is,
I
by
know.
the way, this is Kristen Sinclair.
No,
again
you're
from
fine.
Camden
You're fine.
Community Council.
Yeah.
I think the biggest things I see with this is we need an education plan. We need clear steps and metrics that DPW has a plan to reach towards, a clear goals that are very clear. We need to establish a clear time frame and educate the public that this resource isn't going anywhere until we have very clear ways to do these things. And then education to the public of what's going to happen to the location. So I think if those steps are met, there is a meeting in the middle. As long as we are very clear with the public that this is how Sisson is right now for this extended period of time, and we will educate you on what we are doing with it as we go forward, especially since DPW is not planning on funding it for the foreseeable future.
Right. But again, that there are conditions in which it will only, if it closes, it would only close if certain things happen.
That's right.
Reedbird is opened, remove things to York Road. We have clear metrics on reduction of usage, those kinds of things. Yeah. But starting about acknowledging how important the site is, and then moving to the intent is to do all of these things, which would then reduce dependence on Sisson and eventual closure. So, but we have that.
You
Yeah.
don't want to lose your happiness rating that we already have on Sisson. We
Right.
want that happiness rating to go to everyone else
Right.
and be excited about zero waste. And I think if we do this right in the way that kind of partitions it out in a timely fashion that makes sense, that's like achievable, I think then that can be something that actually improves trust.
Keandra?
And I just want to say, with that happiness rating, supporting DPW in these changes, right? When
Yeah.
it goes up to vote, when the budget increases or they're asking for a budget, knowing that you need to be behind them in making those changes. So this is reality. I just wanted to say that.
Hi, Sam with Gria. I would really like to it sounds to me like we're really ready to make some decisions and then work on the report after that. Is there a way that we can go about making votes for?
Yes, what I was going to do is restate what I had said and then ask for a motion is what I was planning on doing. Okay, does that work? It's going to be, I mean, we will have some discussion. I know, no, I want you to stay. But it also sounds to me like we are ready.
Yeah.
So, I, as a chair, I can't make motions. So I'm going to restate, somebody make a motion and then we'll second. Does that sound good? So, I'm trying to do Robert, so I can't make the motion, but I will restate it. Right, exactly. So what we're planning on doing is to state clearly the importance of Sisson, and that we will support and that DPW will meet certain goals, including opening up Reedbird, continuing work on Bowleys and their infrastructure, plus zero waste, being very clear about those timelines before closing Sisson. Oh, that's right. And moving recycling and the benefits district and hazardous waste will be moved somewhere, but that recycling and the benefits districts would move to York Road. Okay.
Do we want to allow it to, well, I guess, go through do we want to add a component and also allowing them to, I guess, not have it on their books by the end of it, like within that process?
Oh, that it would have to go to productive use. We'll just use the words productive use. Is that okay? Community process? Right. Okay. And then that sounds good. The other item,
It wasn't possible to hear Councilman Jones, so if you could repeat whatever the motion is, that
Sorry,
would
yeah.
be helpful.
My mic wasn't on. It was adding the caveat that we will also allow DPW to start the process to allow it to be put into productive use. So whatever that transfer is.
through community process.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the other piece is the accountability piece. So are we assigning ourselves as accountable? Or are we assigning the public safety or public health and environment committee or the sustainability commission? Who's
Decide once we figure out who can be responsible for that, or do we just say we want someone accountable?
there has to be some accountability.
The most logical.
If people are talking,
I think it's going to be both.
They're not being heard.
We're just looking at each other. So I think it's going to be both. I think the city council and our committee will be holding DPW accountable to these metrics. And I think the sustainability commission will. And I think it's okay to name both. Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second with those caveats. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposition? Okay. Thank you all for your work. This is pretty, truly amazing.
I would say that I'm in opposition only because we haven't heard all of the things that people want to consider before DPW is able to say whether they or not they can. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I am not in favor solely because we have not been able to give the chance for DPW to tell us whether or not they can actually meet the things that people are asking for in order for it to be sunset, including things that I'm concerned about. And so
I think that's valid.
I think it's valid.
I think we can add, I think that's really important. So I don't want to discount that. And I think that we can add, which is why the accountability is so important. And that the Sisson can't close until this is done.
Right. And we don't, right. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
And simply because we don't know if those things can actually be achieved. And I just want to feel satisfied and for the public to be satisfied in knowing that those things can't be achieved. That's it. And it's not even that
but we don't even know if they can achieve it yet because they haven't even tried. So
or even heard them necessarily.
Right.
Able to vote for years and debating.
Yeah, we don't have to wait for years. I'm saying going through the and at least hand them the list to say no. We haven't done that yet. That's all I'm saying.
So just
Isn't that list the report?
Well, no,
No, it's
I want her to so understand exactly what it is. So we knew that, so we just keeping Reedburg open.
For sure, hazardous waste we know can be moved.
Absolutely.
We for sure know that that this location that is north of
The York
Sisson,
Road
the York
location.
Road
We can use
location,
that for
that we can
specific
use it for
times.
sure,
Right.
and that it won't incur additional costs, because to me, if it does, then what's the difference? between
Correct.
Keeping that makes no sense to me. And so just like going through, and I'm sorry that off the cuff, I can't list every single thing I saw in every letter, but that's where I would feel comfortable to say, yes, I feel completely comfortable with knowing that all the needs of the public are being met and we can sunset Sisson in 5 years, right? Because we're looking at 2031.
Right.
Well,
maybe.
2031 is for the incinerator and the reason that it's 2031 for the incinerator is because that's when the contract expires.
Okay. I was basing that off of
So
Reedburg.
2031, a Reedburg
It's 5
opening.
years.
Yeah.
Reedburg is 3 years from when construction starts.
Okay, so
Right.
2029.
Right. But we also, again, have said very clearly that certain things have to be done even with Reedburg.
Right.
Right. So I think you're right in that we do need to articulate those. We have to go through the letters and all of that, but that there's some things that they need to help us with, right? Like if we're but bringing up bulk trash, then and the other thing is to reduce dependence on Sisson by measuring how many people are coming,
Right.
right? How many, and that was my intent of saying other stuff in
Other
addition.
things,
So
right.
it would be less dependence on Sisson because we're seeing less use of Sisson, right? So it'd be the sanitation and the recycling. So that can be clearly measured because we're already measuring it.
That's right.
Right?
And then the other clear piece is with these 50%, right, moving outside of Sisson and like we're slowly reducing, we haven't heard whether or not they can fund the cost of this behavioral change. Like, we keep mentioning it, but it
The
is a
marketing
piece. It's not
education
free.
piece.
Yeah, it's not free. And so if we're saying there's no additional funds for anything else outside of these two buckets that we have already earmarked and we've already funded, then where is that money coming from to do that work?
Right.
We can't just say
Director.
Yeah, this is part of our zero waste initiative. We are actually budgeting for that. There is an entire, and I'd be happy to send this committee our presentation from the zero waste hearing last week. We have a number of plans, specifically starting with yard waste and food waste, where there is a significant component in education and outreach, including in the schools. So I'd be happy to send that around.
I mean, one of the things that I took away from that though is there needs to be more. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what we're asking is that, and part of the recommendation I think would be more investment. I mean, you might have the strategies, but if you've only got a certain amount of money that you're only doing 10 schools, which is what the presentation said, that's not what we're asking.
That's for the program.
Yeah.
Not the education is a whole separate piece.
Mhm.
The 10 schools is just for the pilot for the food scrap.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So we really want to emphasize that dollars need to be invested in this. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah.
And then the councilman.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add, it is the more restrictions you make, it is the more difficult that option becomes obtainable. I just want to put it out there. The more you say we need to get this or we need to get that, and depending on certain things, especially behavior and behavior change, while with that, regardless of what options we choose or what option the team or the task force will choose, I think having so many districts, and we could have a whole conversation, and I'm thinking that way because as you start talking about STEAM and how the STEAM discussion is so complicated. It's so complicated in terms of the dependency with the largest user is state of Maryland. The second largest user is all the health institutions in the city are the second user, and the city.
We don't pay taxes, by the way. But go ahead.
Understood. But those are, and changing their systems, and I'm going to say that in order for them to do certain things, in order to change the heating system for all state buildings from dependency on steam to dependent on other four, that's not a 3, that's not a 4, that is not a 5 years process. I just wanted to make it very clear that this was discussed when I was here in 2001, 2002. We went to the state and we asked the state to look, we want to shut it down. Yeah. And all these issues came out to the public at the time, and everybody started saying, that is not so as we start thinking about this specific task, let's not make the restrictions so big that are unattainable.
Well, I do think that there's a lot of conversation at the General Assembly level and at our local level around sort of the regional issue of trash. Yes. and where the incinerator fits in. And I think that this effort that we're saying very clearly that we, the city, want to close the incinerator means we have to have those conversations with all the other users to do that, right? And that we, the city, have to do everything that we have to do to make sure that the 40% of the waste that we send to the incinerator, which is construction waste, is not there. That the other 40% is composting that doesn't go there, right? That the rest of it that we have we have to be really clear about that to also set the example so that to say to the rest of the state, we're doing our part. Get your trash out of our city. You know what I mean? And now that's the incinerator discussion, but it's definitely here. So I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate that you've brought that up because I think we need to be very explicit in the report of the recommendations that, we're going to work on legislation on the multifamily piece, that we're very clear that we want DPW to work on the incinerator and, all of the things that we just came up with. So I think we still have an opportunity to add that to we could stay here another 5 hours and work on the document, but we're not going to do that.
Because I do have to go, but I'm with Keandra on this. I'm in opposition to what you just said because of everything she just laid out. And the other big thing that I think I would like to have added, if this is option 2 is where we go, is I think we need a beta test. I think we need a dry run. We need to plan for a dry run to see how it will affect the neighborhood. And I say that, Kristen Sinclair's Handham Community Council, I say that as it's the most used location. So we need to test it and see how it happens. Like if there's a certain, like if it's a month or 2 month, or once things are up online and other systems have been put in place, I think it's important to run it to see the behaviors of what people do, because regardless, that will inform how everything's flowing.
Yeah.
Some sort of situation like that, I think, would be really helpful.
Right. Now, so my intention was to try to get us all to the same place. I mean, I realize that we have some, I mean, we are so close. I know. We're so
Hey,
close. That hopefully we can work through putting it in writing, because I think it's tough when we're just conceptualizing, right? And I would be willing to hold on a final until we actually see it in writing and then come back.
And why I just
And I
wanna
think
be
we can
clear.
use our vote as our intention,
Yes.
okay? But we need to, I understand where some of our members are. Like, I really want to make sure that we're all comfortable with this. I mean, I get that we're going to take a little bit more time here, but we've said what our intention is. It's clear that the two that have some challenge want to see some things in writing so that we're clear to be able to bring everybody on board. I mean, I want to try to, the whole reason to take so much time on this, we could have in December just taken a vote and be done with it. And that's just not how we're going to do this, because I want to make sure that everybody is comfortable.
And
That's important.
Hey,
to me.
listen, it's Dana. I have no idea what the motion was. We couldn't hear. So if somebody could restate the motion,
Just a
that
minute.
would be
Just
helpful.
let me finish. Let me just
And
finish the meeting.
yeah, but also it's just not, I mean, unanimity is not the goal, but if someone could just restate the motion,
It is
just
my goal.
so I
I am
know
the chair.
what, I know what happened.
I'm looking for
that
consensus.
would be very much appreciated.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end, I've got to end this no later than 1:15.
I
I'll
understand.
have to stop the recording.
I understand. What I'm trying to do is make sure that people are, we may not get total unanimity, but do want to make sure that people are comfortable, because we're representing organizations and groups that have a lot of stake in this. And the fact that this is a large conversation about our sanitation efforts is really critical to me. So, I just want to make sure that we get to a place where folks, even if we still have the 2 no's, that they're comfortable, okay, with understanding where we have. And I want to take those into consideration. So it doesn't have to be clear. I just want to try to find consensus. That's been the goal here. Yes.
And we run this risk, and this is why I say this, is that imagine we put forth things that are not achievable. Then one side will say, this was a farce. You made this list and you knew it could never close. On the other end, if we make a list of things that don't include things that people, intended, then it stays, you know what I'm saying? We want it to be super clear. We don't want people to think we're just making things up to put in guardrails. I want it to make sure that if we make this list, that it absolutely can close and it's actually something that can actually happen and that's achievable. And if we don't do it, people are not going to believe in the process. And that's why I'm saying.
So let me add this. I'm coming back from the government side. You do a conditional approval, which basically indicates those conditions. And as Khalil was saying, you choose carefully what those items are. Whether it's hazardous waste or it's opening at York Road, the other things that we talked about for the wind down. But you specifically put, and then hopefully we can all agree upon things that we actually think are achievable. And then we put a time frame on it. I mean, would that work?
Yes.
I mean, I think that was the intent of
Yes. That's
the
what
motion.
I thought I was voting on.
That was
But
the
we
intent
choose-
of the
we
motion.
choose wisely what it is that we think that they can actually get done.
Right. I think that was the intent of the motion,
Okay.
is to say very clearly, we think Sisson is a very important resource. We know that there are things that we want to make sure occur. If Sisson is going to close,
Right.
these things need to occur, right?
Those are conditions.
Rebird, York Road,
Mhm.
the
waste,
hazardous waste,
bulk trash, and
legislation,
legislation on
bulk
commercial.
trash. Those are 5. What's the others? Oh, the education. Oh my
Education.
God. Right.
And we can even
sixth.
put in the time period,
Timeline is.
timeline.
So
of that.
timelines we do not have right now
We
as
don't.
part of this, but
But
we're
we
going to
ask for
work
that.
with
Right.
DPW to create the timeline so that that's in our report.
That's
And
actually
the
really
accountability then is based on the report. And that, well, I'm sure we'll all be involved, but it'll be the Public Health and Environment Committee and Sustainability Commission that would continue to work through the timelines. So we don't have the timelines yet today. We will work with DPW on those timelines as we finalize the report. So
Just
that was
that-
the intent.
6 was the productive use, moving towards the productive use.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So-
Okay. I'm going to write this down again. Reed Bird, York Road, and then hazardous waste.
Commercial receptacles for recycling.
Multifamily. Right. Okay.
Oh, yes,
Productive use. Uh-huh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was another one of the education. And investment. Like there's the plans and then there's the investment. So it's a very clear investment in the education piece. And that those are the conditions by which Sisson would close. Yes. Yes.
Procedurally, you did not tally a final vote, and so I think people can change their votes still if they want to. But I'm just saying, so procedurally, I think until you call a final.
Yeah, no, I understand. Right. Which is why I interrupted immediately before doing that. Yes, absolutely.
Is there any way to restate the motion so that it's just clear what people are voting
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
Okay,
Actually, yeah.
thank you.
Yep. Hold on one second. We do have 2 members online and I do want to just make sure their comfort level. Kevin, are you still online? Councilman Torrance? Did he get online?
I don't believe Councilman Torrance ever joined.
Oh, I thought he
And
did. Okay. And he's
No, I
not
never
either.
saw that
Okay.
he joined, and Kevin
Okay.
is no longer on the call.
Okay. All right. So the motion was, all right, to again acknowledge the importance of Sisson, but that if Sisson closes, the only way Sisson closes is that these 7 conditions are met within certain timeframes that we still need to define, but that we will work with DPW to define in our final paper, right? So that Reed Bird has to be open with continued construction of Bowleys, Reed Bird open and renovated, right? Recycling, transition to, and the benefits district transition to York Road. And that's part of our zero waste piece on the recycling. Hazardous waste has to be moved from Sisson sort of sooner than later, with a conversation around what that looks like, whether it's poly or whether it's Bowleys, but something, and that's a sooner than later piece. That bulk trash needs to be significantly improved, which they said that they would be investing in. That the councilman and I are working on clearly defining in legislation that commercial properties have to have both a green and a blue trash can. We won't say green and blue in legislation, but we will say what that is, and that service has to be provided. And then that there will be significant investment in education around, recycling writ large, about the fact that once Reed Bird is open, that this is another facility that folks around there should be comfortable to use. Same with Bowleys, so that we're again reducing dependence on Sisson because people know that they can get the services that they need in those other places, and additional education around our zero waste goals, right? So those 3 things. And then returning, if it closes or when after these things are met, to productive use with community input in mind, right? And so, but we still need to, but we still need to, define the timelines before we finalize our paper. And that the accountability is with the Sustainability Commission, and the city councils, whatever committee ends up in whatever terms, moving forward that has to do with, environment.
Joey Beckmar, I just want to clarify.
We need to add one more thing here.
The
One more.
productive use one
Uh-huh.
was not waiting until all this was met. It was working on planning for that productive use concurrently with all of this.
Yeah,
Wow,
right.
those goals are us.
The last condition, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 condition is the zero waste.
Yeah.
We need to add that very clearly around the zero waste goals, accomplishment of the zero waste goals in a very quick fashion. So that there's 8 conditions that have to be met in a certain timeline that we still need to define.
Well, yeah, they're not that they're met, but they're fully met in all cases, but they are being.
And I think that, but it's up to the timelines. Like hazardous waste,
Yeah.
we know needs to be moved like today. We've defined that, right? I mean, would you feel more comfortable working with, if we worked with DPW on the timelines and then came back?
No, we need to.
I mean, I think we do have some more work to do on the paper, but not that we need, you know what I mean? It's like,
No, I think we're ready to.
what do you all?
I think timelines would be very
Yeah,
beneficial.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like,
I think timelines would be very beneficial.
In terms of the 8 conditions.
think so.
Yes.
Councilwoman, just another sort of point of order. We did not vote on that zero waste 8th condition. That was not a part of the original motion. Nor do I think we can achieve zero waste
Yeah.
before we close the facility. And
No,
She means
understood.
tie it
No,
in
it needs to be tied in.
But I do think if
but
we
it's
put that
not-
in there, then we need to revote
I
because
think
it's not
if-
a part of the original motion.
No, we're gonna, I mean, I think that Sandy needs to, since we didn't take a final, you withdraw your motion so that we can start over.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
Okay, great. So we'll tie in zero waste, acknowledged that it's not gonna be solved by that time, but that's part of the reduction of
Well,
dependence.
can
on
you say
Sisson.
something to the effect compliance with the principles of, in other words, that the goals of zero waste? In other words,
I think
Start
we're
to work on
still working on
compliance.
what those goals are because we're
Okay.
doing a study. So we may not have everything
okay.
set up by then, but that it's like a significant forward. Like I can tell you what I'm planning on doing, legislation and stuff, but that's not necessarily going to be in here. But that there's a real clear intent, and we can get a statement from DPW about where they expect to be in a certain amount of time.
can we say incorporate zero management going forward?
Yeah,
or
yeah. I
something
mean,
like that?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I think if we force a deadline on each of these items, we will never have anything happen.
I think that that's not what we're asking. We're just asking for that there's certain conditions that are met, that there's a certain metrics, which we agreed on 2 or 3 meetings ago, that there would be metrics that we would agree to. We just didn't have all these specifics to then say what those metrics would be, which we now have. And then we can go back and say, what is the realistic timeline? We know for a fact Reedbird has to be opened.
Well,
before
that
anything
one, that
you
one
know?
was clear. That was
York
from day
Road,
one.
The York Road thing we talked about
And that
today,
can be done
hazardous waste
soon.
immediately.
Yes.
And then look at what these other ones are really based on. If we can reduce dependence on Sisson by a certain amount, let's say, it doesn't be perfect, right? But it has to be like, what is reducing dependence on Sisson look like? What is that number? Is it no trash is ever coming? Is it that there's
Mass reduction in bulk trash being deposited there?
Yeah, there's the bulk
That's
trash.
tough because just because it's less trash don't mean we're like, just because there's less trash doesn't mean that what's the correlation? There's no real direct correlation. You could be less people are using it or less, it's no, it's causation versus
As long as it's
relation.
open, people are gonna use
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Because it's convenient. And just because there's more trash doesn't mean we aren't reducing our waste. It could be just they're just more trash now. Like it's no causation and relation.
But the thing is, if you reduce the amount of bulk trash being put there. I mean, mattresses and furniture and stuff like that. If the city had a better system of picking up bulk trash when you call in to request 311, then you should see a reduction. You should.
Yeah,
And you could see a reduction in zip codes that are
Correct.
closer to
That's right.
the facilities that they could use. That's success, right? That you're seeing a reduction in those zip codes. And I do think that I feel the need like to move forward and I just want to put, I think what I was trying to articulate is in the Wasteless Baltimore or something report,
Yeah.
where Sisson had a role in that, that those roles can be reassigned elsewhere, right? And so maybe that's closer to what we mean about the
Yes,
zero
like
waste
that-
piece. It's really that Sisson had a role
Accommodation.
in those goals, and so can those roles be met elsewhere? And I don't know if you've had time, that DPW has had time to assess whether or not that's possible. And that, I just want to reinstate, that's why I had pause.
No, I appreciate
Okay.
that, but I wanted to have the opportunity to have that discussion. And so that, aren't we going to be doing Less Waste, Better Baltimore update soon?
Yes, we have a dashboard that's being created, and a lot of the questions that have been raised are going to be part of the report that's currently being commissioned about how we actually do that. Because Less Waste, Better Baltimore is about 6 years old now.
Okay.
So it needs to be updated. So we're updating it and we're developing a dashboard.
So we would also ask that our recommendations be included in that. It doesn't, we can say, they should talk about this process in context, but that, to your point, in the last version of Less Waste, Better Baltimore, Sisson was going to do this, but in this version, we're taking those tasks elsewhere.
Yep.
So we can add that in here as well. Okay. I know you have to go. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, this is
We're all
just my
texting our people that
my
were
husband sitting outside in the parking lot. No, I just timelines are important. I know it can't be perfect, but I do think it's really important for some of these to have timelines, because if they don't, then we won't be able to actually be able to what is the word I'm looking for? Distribute the refuse in different areas that we want it to go to. It's just going to end up in the streets.
Yeah.
And my main goal is to make sure we are understanding the user habits of our communities across the board, including Remington, Hamden, everybody that uses it. The education piece to push people to the other locations where they should be going, highly important. It is important to make sure that trash isn't going to be in the streets. And if we don't have good metrics on measuring that, or a timeline to do so, or adjustments, then we're just going to end up dealing with the problem in different ways. So I think timelines are important. All those steps you have are important. I do think doing a test should be thought of and looked at to see, just so we know what's going to happen, or at least have a semi prediction of what could happen. So that's kind of what is my sticking point with the motion.
I would say we would need to add a 9th around the inspectors.
I honestly, I think at most we have 5.
No, we've got 9 now. It is DHCD, but it is something that we've advocated for.
Sisson Street can't solve all these problems.
Yeah, we're not asking them.
I mean, so
Okay, hold on. I want to make sure that we're capturing all the conversations, and I know we're about to break down here, so I just hold on a minute. Go ahead.
I just feel like adding that would be outside of the realm of
Yes.
DPW, because we don't want to earmark things and put too much on that they can't control. So.
But
And then I'll come back here.
This isn't for DPW, this is for the mayor, right? So we can be making these recommendations to the mayor to then hand down to DHCD, even though DPW has been an amazing partner to us through this whole process. We can still make recommendations to DHCD.
So once again, I'm going to bring up, I think it's important that we need to separate, some of these are metrics for the vote to close Sisson Street, and some of them are recommendations to include in our report to the mayor. I think it is really important to, I hear you, Deputy Mayor, to keep this scope of the vote and our recommendation as narrow as we can, so that goals are achievable. I also do recognize that as our list grows, many of these are concurrent things that can all be happening at the same
Oh,
time
yeah,
in a very
absolutely.
short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I have. I really hope we can make a vote.
Yeah, I think we're trying to get there. So to your point, so I would concede that the inspectors would sort of be on that other list, right? Because that's part of it. So I'll concede that point. And I do want to keep zero waste there because I think it's important, but it doesn't have to be completed, obviously, because it's going to take us multiple years to get us there. I would, well, I mean, there's still going to be nuance in our paper that we're going to have to work out. I mean, but I think I want us to have the instructions for, some of us to be working with DPW on what these metrics are so that we can put it in our final report. And that obviously living documents are living documents, but they have to be, anything veering from some of this, it has to obviously be because either like it snowed for 6 months and we have no more money, or there's extenuating circumstances. So I think, but having those timelines are going to be important. I'll take the director. And
very briefly, I'm willing to commit that we will beta test, and it won't be just a turn off here, turn on there. There will be a transition, and I'll be happy to work through a plan with the team with that.
Okay, great.
And one thing I would mention, I don't know if this would help make the list shorter, but just maybe conglomerate all the DPW issues into one operational issues like hazardous waste, York Road. In other words, all the things that relate to them. I mean, it's basically like you have a sub list of all the different things that we've identified. So that would be basically operational. Is that correct? Would you describe it that way?
I mean, I think we have to articulate all of these very clearly.
But you put bulk trash, but it's all within the.
Sure. I mean, if we're talking about how we organize the document, we can do that separately.
I'm just saying,
yeah.
I'm just chiming in to say that Dana's going to shut the call off in 6 minutes. So
I'm going
I
with
understand.
Sam's
We do need
idea.
to make a motion and hopefully
Trying to get
Kristen's still here.
Right.
So
Well,
can we
Kristen is still.
get there?
So do we want to re-articulate some of this, all of it, and then make a motion? Or
I think we should group the things that are broad-based that for DPW separate from the ones that we started with, the 5 that we had to begin with.
which were?
Reedbird, hazardous waste, York Road, education, productive use. In no particular order.
I thought bulk trash was.
And concurrent goals.
Well,
I would
that's
argue that
general. Yes,
bulk
general.
trash is general DPW recommendations that go with the improvement of the site.
What about,
Go ahead.
and what about waste less? Because
The
Sisson
zero
is
waste.
a factor in that plan. And so
Is that not
General.
DPW in general?
That's general.
I don't think so, because what she's saying is that in the plan, there is, Sisson will be the site for Sisson will be the site for textile recycling and oysters and this and that. And I think, if I'm correct, that what Keandra's saying is that language has to be removed from the next version of Less Waste, Better Baltimore, right?
yes, and it needs to go somewhere.
And it needs to go
So
somewhere.
apologies. To me, all of that was implied when DPW described their improvements at Reedbird and Bowley's. I was under the impression that all of that was going to Reedbird and Bowley's as part of their improvements, and both of our DPW folks over here are nodding.
Yeah.
So that when I said general DPW improvements, in my brain I lumped that all together because I thought that was all one.
yeah, I think to that, both of those points, we should just add a caveat to the Reedbird, whatever the option is, that it is in relation to how Sisson Street responsibilities are going to be distributed to the other locations, including plans and physical
I like that
locations.
Yeah, that's a good
is
idea.
going to Bowley's, that within that 3-year timeline, those things are available, right? So if they're at
Correct.
Sisson and Foley's not open and online to receive those things,
They
then it
can't be going.
open, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And
And-
yes, Ann Boley's is slated to be online this entire time, even while they're under.
That's-
construction.
Will remain
Yeah,
online.
it's gonna be
Time,
everything.
And they already.
Okay.
They already accept all
Three,
that.
3 minutes,
They do.
folks. 3
Okay,
minutes.
yeah,
Yeah,
one last big.
I mean, I'm,
3
I'm
minutes.
I'm also a host.
Yeah,
so,
one more big item, which is the legislation dealing with multifamily properties. That's gotta happen.
That's general.
That can be your job.
yeah, no, that's very,
That's
that's very clear. As well, I just want to make sure that I am still Dana, can you make me the host so that we can, am I?
We're not going.
I am a co-host right here. Okay.
Yeah,
great.
you are a co-host. You've
Okay.
got you're on twice, but let me see.
Oh yeah, because I'm on with my computer.
Oh, okay.
And I'm also,
I
and
can
I'm,
change
and
this.
this is a computer here, this room, and how we're doing this is a computer. So it's I have two computers here, relatively. Okay. So, okay, are we ready for re-articulation?
Let's go.
Then?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I do
Well, we're
think
not
the
do-
one caveat is the paper will be detailed out.
That's
We'll
right.
Go through and make sure all the clarities of things that need to be.
Right.
I think one caveat is the paper will be detailed out and we need to make all the clarities of everything so that it's,
There's no question.
That's right. We still have that process that we need to go through to make sure that we're all comfortable with what's going to be in the paper with the timelines and specifics. But what this vote does is it provides us with that direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that we would be meeting with the mayor or making like final paper, handing him until we're all happy with how it looks.
I want to say
Okay?
thank you, Director, for the beta test
Yes.
agreement. I appreciate that.
So anyway, so this would guide us in those directions. And then we still have to work on absolutely all those very much specifics, but it gives us a direction. Does that make sense? So we still have work to do. It's just not, okay. All right. Okay. So the how we're going to move forward, that we would then need a motion on is that to acknowledge the importance of Sisson Street, as a facility, and that closure of Sisson Street depends on the conditions by which it would close would be that Reedbird is fully open and functional, as rehabbed in the plans, that some aspects of recycling, if not all of recycling, would be moved to York Road site, as well as the benefits districts can use the York Road site, that hazardous waste would move from Sisson Street to another location, which still has to be decided. But it likely will be, well, it has to be decided. That there will be a very specific, intentional, and robust and consistent education campaign about everything to do with our sanitation, but also to understand that there are other options for folks. That if it closes, that there will be a productive use with community input on the site as well. And that we would work with DPW on improving, that DPW will improve their bulk trash to help to reduce dependence on Sisson, improve bulk trash, make significant headway on our zero waste goals, that there will be a beta test prior to closing to work through any of the changes, that any of the responsibilities that have been assigned to Sisson through Less Waste, Better Baltimore will be intentionally assigned to other locations, and that we will add the legislation that the councilman and I will work on, as well as working with DHCD on the inspector piece, on the stick side, and that we will continue to work with DPW on the timelines, and that the accountability will obviously lie with DPW, but that we're relying on the Sustainability Commission and the City Council's whatever committee that we assign it to, which right now is Public Health and Environment, to hold the DPW accountable for meeting these goals prior to closing Sisson.
So moved.
Go ahead. What?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Apologies. Prior to you reading that list, we had said it would be those big five and everything else would be moved
That's-
into major recommendations.
Mhm.
Is that what was stated?
It sounds that way.
Apologies, I'm a visual learner, so sometimes when it's all audio,
Yeah, that's what I had to write it out for
Okay, so-
myself.
It just sounded like 10 conditions.
It
to me.
sounded like 10.
But
I
when I said that we would continue to have DPW work on, that's the topic that was the separate.
So the
piece.
conditions for closure are
Yep. Reedbird would be
Reedbird,
fully
online, fully
open.
functional.
York Road online with the recycling and the benefits districts. Hazardous waste will be removed from Sisson and relocated. That there is an intentional, robust and consistent public education campaign, right? So that's 4. And I think we had the legislation actually as 5. before.
5 was the public use.
That's right.
Productive use.
Right.
Those were the
Agreed.
5 stipulations. The other stuff is in the report.
And then the other pieces are really important to reduce this dependence on
but they're
Sisson.
gonna
the
be-
5
report.
stipulations for closure are those 5. Is that correct?
Well, I think that we have very clearly said that Keandra had very clearly said that she wants a very clear articulation that, first of all, that there would be a beta test, right? And Keandra was talking about any responsibilities that are designated for Sisson in Less Waste, Better Baltimore be intentionally moved to those other places. So we would add those two.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that because it's
That's
it's
right.
implied in other
Okay.
places as well. Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 7 conditions. Okay.
So-
Thank you.
And that then DPW would continue to work very specifically on the zero waste bulk trash improvements. We would work with DHCD on the inspectors, and we'll have the legislation. So that those are the 4 additional items that would be listed as additional recommendations. Is that clear?
Yes, so
Yeah.
moved.
Put your
Second, at Mary Ann Midtown.
Okay, any discussion, further discussion?
No better not.
All right. No, so the deputy mayor brought up a question about, do we have to say option 1, option 2? So the whole articulation around option 1, option 2, option 3 was simply to have a discussion.
Okay.
We can make a motion otherwise, which is what we're doing, which is sort of a melding of the two at the moment, right? So the options we put out there was really to have that public discussion because it was going to be a better way to sort of compartmentalize. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So all in favor of what we had just articulated? Any opposition?
Aye. Sorry, not opposition, but I was late to the button.
You're an aye.
I'm on the aye. Then it turned me off again.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for your very, really amazing discussion. We still have work to do on the paper. We still have work to do, but this gives us, that direction. If we have to come back together in person, we will, but we'll continue to work through it. So thank you for spending so much time with us. Thank you all in the public for making these observations and for helping us out. Thank you to DPW for spending so much time with us. And I know. Take snacks with you. Take food with you, please. Take food with you. Take coffee.
Thank you, everyone.
And everyone in the public, I'm going to shut down the Zoom right now. Thank you so much.